Give me the high sign.
Wait, give him a little.
We're almost ready, guys. All right, well, Madam President, I think we are ready to go. We have everything ready. We have our interpretation, and I'm going to hand it off to you officially to start our meeting.
Good evening. I call this meeting of the Vista Unified School District to order at 7:13 p.m. We'll start off with the roll call. Trustee Smithfield,
Here.
Trustee Vargas,
Presente.
Trustee Morocco,
Here.
Trustee Kelly. Here. Okay, all present and accounted for. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please do this in effect to the Vice President?
Place your right hand over your heart and say with me, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
So, reporting the public report of actions taken in closed session. The governing board for the Vista Unified School District took action in closed session to uphold the superintendent's recommendation that pursuant to Ed Code Section 4492.9.21, the following probationary certificated employees will be non-reelected for the 2023-24 school year. And I read out the ID numbers.
Yes, you do.
Employee ID numbers 23-2-23-1, 23-2-23-2, 23-2-23-3, 23-2-23-4, 23-2-23-5. All right. And were there other readouts, Dr. Doyle?
There were none.
Okay, all right. So that's agenda item 3. And next we have the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda with a modification for item 11B in the consent calendar. There is an expulsion case listed, E15-2022-2023 that should be pulled from item 11B.
Moved.
All right, so it was moved by trustee Kelly to approve the agenda minus 11B from the consent calendar for a modification, and seconded by trustee Vargas. All in favor?
I think I might have an item that I need to have pulled.
Okay.
The agenda or the consent?
The consent, the budget.
We're just approving the.
Right. It's
The consent calendar, the budget is on consent.
yes, so then I need to
Okay.
pull the item and I
What?
think it's. I didn't.
So just a point of clarification. So when we get to item 6, you can pull an item. The
Okay,
purpose of this pull is a
Gotcha.
modification of the agenda.
perfect.
So you will have the opportunity to pull that item, but when we get to item 6.
Thank you.
All right.
I was looking for it.
So we had trustee Kelly moved to approve the agenda, trustee Vargas seconded minus 11B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. The next item on the agenda is a wonderful, happy moment, and I'm so happy so many of you here. We have district announcements, and with that, we have our Golden Apple Awards presentation where we get to celebrate the best, the creme de la creme of Vista. So go ahead, Dr. Doyle.
Thank you very much, President Alvarado. And it is a really happy time of the year. We do it every year. We've done it for many, many years, more than a decade. And before we start, and I'll have Rachel, if she's here somewhere, yeah, and we'll have you stand in a moment because you're leading it. But I do want to just make a few statements before we get into acknowledging some just absolutely amazing educators and support providers in our school district. We have a Golden Apple Award process where we acknowledge absolutely amazing people in our community, people who work for our community and people who believe and love our students. And it is important to note that this is symbolic of many teachers and many support staff in our school district, not just the people we're recognizing tonight. So it's an amazing process. We appreciate your patience as we got through our closed session. And each one of the board members is going to acknowledge an individual in our school district. I will be acknowledging an individual, but it's symbolic of many individuals in our school district. And Rachel, if you could just give maybe 30 seconds of the golden apple, and then we will start our process.
So our golden apple is ran by nominees that our sites provide for multiple categories. One is our certificated administrator, a classified management, a high school teacher, a middle school teacher, an elementary school teacher, and a classified employee.
Yes. And then real quickly, before we begin the process, let's talk a little bit about the procedure, because I think we have a photographer here as well.
Yes,
For
right.
purposes, so let's make sure you explain that to the families and the people who are.
So those who
getting
are
away.
receiving. Oh, never mind. Debbie told me you have to come in. So you have Debbie. She's going to help. I will help escort you down here. He will take you around and take a picture because we need to take a nice screenshot. We are not. Right out here and want to put it.
So each one of our board members and I will recognize the individual. We care dearly about all of you. And we traditionally allow that person to make a few statements if you like. If that winner chooses not to, we're okay with that as well. So I just want you to know that we care very much about you, and we're ready to begin. I'll hand it back to Madam President.
So you want us in order, sir?
I believe we're in order, and you are
Okay.
first. Yes, you are first.
All right. Just for protocol, do we bring the person up and then talk to them in front of them? Or do
I think it's supposed to be a surprise.
Oh,
As you read it,
Oh,
you can figure out. That's the whole point of it.
okay.
And you have the award right here. So there's it.
Suspense. All right. The Golden Apple Award in the Certificated Administrator category goes to a principal who is an extraordinary leader in Vista Unified School District. She is a leader who always considers her students and staff first. She encourages others and uses resources available to make sure that the lives of her kids are made better by the opportunities provided on site. She has always stepped up to whatever was necessary to support students. She has served as a teacher, resource teacher, IB magnet coordinator, assistant principal, and currently serves as an elementary principal. She has traveled the world, continuing to increase her knowledge and bring her experience of how people learn back to her side. The Vista Unified School Board is honored to present the Golden Apple to Melanie.
That was a good one.
Okay.
Want to go now?
You don't know our height is there.
Let me know when you're ready.
Perfect. All right.
Speech.
Like to talk in front of people very much, and I've never been speechless, probably ever, but I am right now. I'm shaking. I just am really honored, and it's a privilege to be part of the Bovier Bronco team. We have an amazing staff and students and families at our school, and also I love working with all of my colleagues and the leaders and the families, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm sorry.
Before we begin, so real quick, board members, there's a lot of people here. There are even people like a little bit outside the door. So as loud as you can in your loudest voice possible. Your next program.
All right, you guys, listen up. There you go. Our Golden Apple recipient for classified management is awarded to a leader who truly has all the right systems in place to make sure our district is safe for all students and staff. Cute one. He leads a team that is well-trained and ready to support each and every site and department with computers, networks, phones, and other technology. He works around the clock to ensure programs, websites, and communication are up and running efficiently. His leadership and team helped VUSD navigate through many transitions of learning during the pandemic. The leader started as a PC, personal computer, support technician in November of 2000. He left the USD in 2007 to become an assistant director in Placentia, Yorba Linda. He returned to Vista Unified in September of 2012 as Director of Information Technology. Before becoming a tech guru, our recipient served in the United States Marine Corps.
Hoorah.
The Vista Unified School District is honored to present the Golden Apple to Dwayne Coffey.
Not very good. Not very good.
It's like.
I was worried you weren't gonna be in here. Big reveal, yeah. Congratulations. Look at that.
Over here.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure everything is working right now. I'm on the hook to make everything work. No, thank you for the recognition, but really, I don't do anything. So all the work, really, I don't. A lot of the ideas and the things we do come out of the staff. And so Chris happens to be one of them. And Chris will tell you, I'm just a humble bus driver driving the bus. And so they come up and they give us ideas on the best direction to go. And sometimes we take them, sometimes I get to veto them and say, no, we need to go this direction. But that's my role in the district. I'm just a humble leader and they do all the work. So thanks, but the recognition goes to them and have a good night.
All right, this next one. This year's recipient for the Golden Apple Award for High School Teacher goes to a teacher who is the go-to person for everything related to the 6 pillars of character. Not only does he himself exemplify all 6 pillars in everything he does, he teaches these traits to all who surround him. He exudes positivity and brightness no matter what the circumstance is. He coordinates several field trips throughout the year, including the Museum of Tolerance and We Day. He runs the Buddies program for special education students. He is one of the most sincere, kind, and dedicated educators. In addition to the guidance he gives his students, he is instrumental in welcoming new staff to the school. As a Panther alumni and a longtime Panther faculty member, he bleeds red and black. His passion for his work and love for his people is evident in every interaction he has with the students, their families, other faculty, and the community at large. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees and as a former one of your students, Devin Hanlon, congratulations.
Wow. Nice. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Wow. I know, David, we got here. Come on, come on, come on.
Wow. Pretty good picture of these.
I love that.
Oh, what is that? Yeah. Even better.
Pretty shocked. I thought it was talking about a program tonight, but thank you very much. What an honor it is to be a part of this unified, both as, to be honest, as an alumni and as a teacher. And it's an honor to work with each one of you. I have so many friends in the audience from the district. And so it's an honor to work with you and such amazing kids. I want to just really thank, first off, Dr. Eric Shigala, who is a friend and mentor to me, who created the program, the Character Leaders program, that I was so fortunate to co-create with him. What an honor. So I want to thank him and our administration, Dr. Jaffe, and the rest of our administrative team, so supportive in the district. So thank you, Dr. Doyle on board and everyone here and my friends and family. But what an honor it is to work in this district that supports character education, because it's not common. And so thank you very much, everybody.
I'm gonna stand up.
Great.
The winner of the middle school teacher Golden Apple Award is incredibly dedicated and committed to Vista Unified and the students and staff we serve. She not only serves as a full-time math teacher at a middle school, a parent of students in the district, she also serves as a teacher leader in the induction program formerly known as BTSA. In this program, she provides guidance and mentorship to all of the teachers in the district who are participating in the program, and also supports other mentor teachers. She is a natural leader who is incredibly skilled at helping guide new teachers through the process while fostering a positive and collaborative site culture at Vista Magnet Middle School. She is genuine, and her kindness for others shows through in her patience and feedback that helps new teachers and students grow and feel valued in our school district. We are here to celebrate and congratulate our middle school teacher, Golden Apple winner at Vista Magnet Middle, Stephanie Hall Garland.
Well, I feel really lucky to be here and thankful that the district I grew up in is acknowledging how much I care about our district. I get inspired every day with the rock star teachers I work with. They do so much for our kids. But I'm just thankful to be able to share with you that I get to see amazing brand new teachers do great things, and veteran teachers like myself who do a great job, and just go out of their way for the kids all the time and do things that are great for our community. So thank you very much.
All right. I will be reading the recipient of our elementary school Golden Apple. This is a teacher who's a dedicated educator. Who's always had the students' well-being and learning in mind. She has been the grade level lead of 3rd grade for many years. She has a huge heart and is always seen on campus setting the example for what the children need to be and aspire to. She also understands and knows that students' needs are all different, and she never uses a one-size-fits-all approach. This teacher is a role model when it comes to our core values of respect, trust, collaboration, and equity. She also epitomizes kindness through her thoughts, words, and actions. She models the 5 pillars that are used to support the learning and expectations of the school site. She also treats every student, staff member, and parent with respect, open ears, and arms. Please join me in congratulating our Golden Apple recipient for elementary from Breeze Hill, Ms. April Spark.
Very proud of you. Very good.
This is for you. And he likes it if you hold it the right way.
I got a great picture here. It's gonna be awesome. Congratulations.
I again, if you guys, I was not expecting this at all. I thought we were talking about performance. So I have, I honestly want to just thank all of you and all the teachers that I work with. And I just am so appreciative of everybody that has fed into me as a teacher. My master teacher was Mike Fears, and he recently passed away. And I just think of him and all my administrators that I've had. And I'm just so thankful. I love my family, and I just honestly also, I want to give praise to Jesus. So thank you so much.
So our final awardee for the evening, I wish we could hand out 100 of these awards. Our final awardee of the evening, I have the pleasure of introducing. I've also had the pleasure of hiring many years ago. The Golden Apple for classified employees goes to an employee who is the model of excellence and innovation. She is the VUSD mission in human form. She is the model of excellence and has earned the endearing term of mother of our school. She takes care of everything and everyone. And she does it with the most sincere smile and positive attitude. This employee started her career as a community liaison. She was promoted to the front office secretary and currently serves as the site secretary at an elementary school. The boss. The employee exemplifies the district's values every day in her work. She values everyone and makes them feel that they are very important. Every parent that walks into the lobby and is greeted by her feels important, seen, and heard. She has a heart for children and a heart for her community. She serves as a member of the district's guiding coalition, who's a product of Vista schools, graduating from Rancho Buena Vista High School. It is our pleasure to celebrate and present our classified employee Golden Apple, the Leadership Academies, Patricia, Patty, and Darren.
I thought I was going to be here for. I work with the best team in the entire world. I grew up in Vista. I'm a Vista kid. I went to Vista schools. I'm a Vista Unified School District parent, proud parent of Vista Unified School District. But everyone at the Leadership Academy, really, you guys are all my family, and I love you guys so much. And I want the best for our students. I want every one of our students to succeed in whatever that looks like for them, right? And so thank you so much.
Yeah.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, three. That's beautiful.
And thank you. Thank you. All right, as soon as our guests are situated, if we could please close the door, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right. We have reached the portion of our meeting set aside for comments from the public about matters not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Under board bylaw 9323, comments are limited to 3 minutes. Sorry, yeah. 3 minutes unless changed by the board. Under bylaw 9323 of the Brown Act, the open meetings law under which the board must operate, it allows the board to hear issues within its jurisdiction from the public that are not on the agenda. It only allows the board to respond in a very limited manner, such as providing direction to staff. If the board were to have more than this type of brief discussion on an item not on the agenda, it could be a violation of the Brown Act's rules for posting the agenda. Speakers providing public comment must follow the guidelines that we set forth be at the beginning of our meeting of our values of respect, trust, collaboration, equity, and kindness. And on that note, I will call the first speaker for 6A. We have Sydney McCullen, and if I say your name wrong, please correct me. Sydney McCullen, you may come up and speak, please.
This is Korean.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Jennifer Gomez. My name is Viridiana Ramirez. My name is Jonathan Hernandez. I'm Sydney. And we are members of Rancho Buena Vista's Public Policy Club, and we are here to invite you and others to a community forum we are planning on evening of March 20th, 2023, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Morris Vance Community Rooms at the Vista Civic Center. So this forum is in partnership with the North Coastal Prevention Coalition to kick off National Alcohol and Drug Facts Week, and to help make sure families have important information to prevent substance use. So our target group right now is really middle school parents, because we want to focus on the introduction of substance usage and prevention because of the transition from middle school to high school. We also want to advocate for the distribution and safekeeping of naloxone, which is it helps with the reversal of OD effects. And we want that on school campuses. We're gonna have speakers on physical and cognitive effects of substance usage. And basically, all we're trying to do is promote the safety of Rancho students and USD students. We brought a few draft flyers and we'll be finalizing and sharing with all the middle school and high schools in the Vista Unified District. We hope you will join us and help us spread the word.
Thank you so much, scholars. I just wanted to clarify, or just let you guys know, we do have that on campus. We have tell me the name of it again. Naloxone, we have it on our campuses. So I want you guys to know that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I forgot the flyers.
Thank you, sir. All right. The next item on the agenda is, or the next person to speak for public comment is Audra Bueno.
Hello, Superintendent and trustees. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone, just some minutes. I'm a PTA member and a parent at Beaumont Elementary. We've been hearing a lot of rumors about the closure of Beaumont. Our concern is that there is open dialogue about what's going on, what's going to happen to Beaumont way before any final decisions have been made. I'm concerned for the students, the teachers, student-teacher ratios, parents, facilities, parking, transportation, etc. I would like to encourage the board to have plenty of dialogue before final decisions are made. making sure all of our concerns have been
Thank you so much, Audra.
heard. Thank you.
All right, the next person to speak is Eric Dennis.
Superintendent Doyle and trustees, I also attended one of your recent LL update events that you folks had, and I appreciate all the work that went into that. As a person that's lived in Vista for majority of my life, well, ever since the city incorporated, I appreciate the work that you guys are doing here. But Beaumont, as my previous speaker just spoke about, I'm a grandparent to a child at Beaumont, and I'm kind of disturbed about the rumors versus real information. I know at my time talking with Dr. Doyle and Debbie Morton, some of the issues that were going on and some of the things that they were working towards, you know, the hydrology studies and the different events towards maintenance and so forth. But I would hope that the information that's being gathered is disseminated to parents, and those will get back to us way before any kind of final decisions have actually been made. So there's a potential for input. So thank you for your time. I appreciate what you do, and take care.
Thank you, sir. Yep, on the agenda is Nancy Lagona.
Hi, good evening, school board members and superintendent. I'm speaking tonight in response to the district's proposal to add school social workers to the school psychologist pay scale, and our district's failure to not include school counselors in this proposal. Our school district actively fails to recognize school counselors as mental health professionals in our schools. According to the state law, AB 2508, school counselors are recognized as mental and behavioral health providers who can now bill Medi-Cal for counseling services. So our district now has access to state money that can offset the cost to pay this increase in wages for our school counselors. If our school district is pushing for collaboration meetings with school psychologists, school social workers, and school counselors, where we're consistently discussing the overlap in job descriptions and how our education aligns and our job descriptions are so similar, yet we are bumping the pay scale for our social workers, mental health providers, and we're not including school counselors in this. I've been in the district for 8 years, and so it's really disheartening that if this proposal goes through, a first-year school social worker, very deservingly, as a first-year school social worker, would be making more money than me as an eighth-year school counselor. So I really hope that we can look at our district and ensure that our school counselors are being compensated alongside our colleagues when we're doing very similar work and we have similar credentialing and education. Our job descriptions align, and we want to make sure that we continue retaining our school counselors. Just in the middle schools, in the last 2.5 years, we've had 7 new counselors. So there's a lot of recidivism. We have a lot of people leaving the district for other districts who have higher pay. And so we're losing very highly qualified school counselors. One of our own elementary school counselors, Heidi Southgate, won School Counselor of the Year for San Diego County. Yet 3 years ago, when our school district tried to hire lead counselors, they said no school counselor in our district was qualified for that position. That counselor, who was recognized countywide, applied and didn't get the job. So I'm asking that our school board and our district take a stance and ensure that our school counselors are compensated at the same rate as our colleagues who provide mental health services to our students and our families in our district. Thank you.
Good evening, Vista Unified Board members. My name is Jeremy Nolan, and I am the speech language pathologist at the Vista Adult Transition Center, also known as VATSI. VATSI is an all special education school serving about 125 students across mild, moderate, moderate severe, medically fragile, and behavior intervention classrooms. My students are the most profoundly disabled students we have in this district. So, to better promote their social emotional learning, I applied for a facility dog through Canine Companions, the leading provider of facility dogs in the country. Facility dogs are professionally trained to promote social interaction, enhance therapies, and reduce anxiety for students. They've been proven to support students with behavioral difficulties to self-regulate and develop coping strategies. They've also been proven to help students with cognitive and adaptive delays in learning independent living skills out in the community, something that is tremendously important for my students as they transition into adulthood. Canine Companions places facility dogs nationwide, including prestigious locations such as Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital and the Mayo Clinic. Vista Unified has been privileged enough to have Canine Companion facility dogs working with students for over 20 years. But as you may be aware, Vista Unified is now doing away with their facility dog program by denying all new facility dog applications and refusing to renew current facility dog placements. I would have a dog right now working with my students were it not for this decision, but instead I'm here. So Vista Unified's own learner portraits encourages students to be capable and knowledgeable learners. I am myself a graduate of Vista Unified, and I believe that this district has made me enough of a capable and knowledgeable learner to recognize that this position on facility dogs is not in the best interest of our students. To deny access to a facility dog is to deny students with special needs a free and valuable tool that supports their educational progress. Rena, you visited VATSI, and you've seen the benefit that a dog could provide to my students. Julie, you've been a volunteer puppy raiser for Canine Companions for many years, and I'm sure you would also agree with that sentiment. So to the remaining board members, I'd like to invite all of you to come and visit VATSI so that you can also see how a facility dog would benefit not only my students, but students across Vista Unified. I do strongly believe that our district can establish procedures that will ensure facility dogs continue to serve students' social, emotional needs across all USD schools. And I'm sure that those who are here with me today would also agree with that sentiment.
Next item on the agenda is item 7A, reports from school-related organizations. We have the Vista Teachers Association. Oh,
There's
you
one.
know,
item that we missed. Sorry.
my apology, I missed a speaker, and I am so sorry. Olga Greenlee, I apologize to you. One of them.
Thank you. No, that's fine.
Sorry, ma'am.
No problem. Good evening, superintendent, school board members, and of course, our students. You are our future, you guys, so I appreciate you being here. I'm Olga Greenlee, currently school counselor at Alta Vista High School. I've been a school counselor at multiple levels. I was at Casita Center before. I've also been a teacher, math teacher at Vista High School. So I have been an educator in this district for over 30 years. I am honored to do so and have enjoyed doing so. California has now recognized school counselors in Senate Bill AB 2508 alongside mental health providers such as our social workers and school psychologists. The fragile nature of our work, the confidential and intimate nature of our work has only increased and intensified, especially through and in the aftermath of the pandemic. What I am asking is I am asking for Vista Unified. First of all, I must say, I want to say I appreciate so much, especially you, Dr. Doyle. You started putting counselors at every school, especially in elementary when they had been the first things cut. So I want to just first of all acknowledge that because so necessary, and you were instrumental in doing that. We are cutting edge. I'm asking that we remain cutting edge. and look at our school counselors as the health providers, mental health providers that we are. What I'm asking for is just that recognition. As a mental health provider, we do grief groups. I've been written into so many IEPs, I don't even know how many they were, where social workers or school psychs weren't available or what have you. So been doing this for years. And I'm asking just to look at compensating us for the work that we do. It is fragile, it is intimate, it is confidential, and we do it on a daily basis. I now serve at Alta Vista High School, as I've said. The crisis that I respond to is more than ever, especially during aftermath of the pandemic, and just intensified. And every day I am sitting with somebody who is in a crisis mode, providing services both online as the Vista virtual counselor, as well as in person at Alta Vista. So I do span grades 2-12 at this point. So I'm just asking for that consideration, as the state has provided us that understanding and giving us that same partnership with our peers. I'm asking the same of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this point, if we have any high school students that are here for their hours, you may be excused, and we'll have one of our assistant superintendents sign their documents that are needed.
Please be completely outside the door so we can close the door. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so moving on. We have reports from school-related organizations from the Vista Teachers Association.
We know that you are a busy board and you have a lot of work to do tonight, so in interest of time, we are consolidating our reports together. And we also think it's nice when our labor units are standing together, because this is one of my favorite nights of the year. And so I want to start off by saying congratulations to the Golden Apple Award winners. It is always so inspiring to hear about the hard work of Vista Unified staff. It's so great to see so many people that I've worked with being recognized by the district. VTA wants to thank these members for their dedication to students, to our community, and to our district. This month, VTA reports that we are working with the districts to plan another visit to Anaheim's community schools, and we're working to also do one with San Diego. Dr. Doyle and I spoke about that today. VTA supports community schools and works to strengthen the structures of shared leadership. That is one of the very special things about community schools. We're also have been conducting a survey this month that you are all aware of. So the results of the survey show that this tentative agreement will not pass, by over 90% of the respondents voting against accepting this tentative agreement. It should not surprise the board of these results, as they match the other surveys that VTA has previously sent out. In fact, this survey has historic amounts of respondents. In fact, since the last time I said this, our survey has increased by over 100 members answering in just this hour. So we have had a huge amount of members respond to the survey, and the data that you got has not changed. It is, okay, so I have to find, that's where I went off script. So let me find back where I was, sorry. It is an overwhelming majority of our members have responded. So while sometimes you hear that we don't represent our members, it's time for the board to trust the teachers that were elected to represent the educators of our districts, because we do have a pulse on our membership. And this has made us stronger than ever and more united. We all really know that when we work together, that's what is best for our students. And VTA comes with a spirit of solutions. We all have the mutual goal of increasing student enrollment and not by creating division and asking a small portion of our members to take on a workload increase and make the pay increase so that everybody gets the pay increase. We are in a time of inflation, of economic insecurity, and our teachers, our educators need that raise, right? Because it's barely matching with inflation. We've all looked at our SDG&E bills. We have teachers who would be classified as homeless in the district. They're doubling up. They're living with friends. They're living in trailers. I've told you I myself was considered homeless by the district for a while. So when we are continuing this bargaining process, it is cruel to our members. One of our values is kindness. It's time for us to settle this contract fairly when we can move on. We're supposed to start bargaining for next year's contract, what, next month? We can come up with a solution without changing contract language now. And that would do so much to make members feel more valued, to make them feel like the district is, we want to attract more students here, right? That's what we all want. But a way to bring more students to Vista is to have educators feel stoked to work here. There was a time when I was a student here and the motto was Vista, a great place to learn and a great place to work. But as you've heard tonight, not just from me, but from people who got up to speak, that not everybody is feeling like Vista is a great place to work. And being a community member, third generation VUSD family, I am committed to making Vista feel like it is a great place to work. So our students feel like it's a great place to work. Thank you.
Report from the SEA.
Members of the board, superintendent, student members of the board, parents, community partners, brothers and sisters and siblings of CCA Chapter 389. My name is Mario Bojorquez, First Vice President. I stand here tonight as a representative of CSEA's solidarity with the Vista Teachers Association. We are partners in labor who work to provide the best education possible for the students of Vista. It is our sincere hope the school board and superintendent will join this partnership by respecting the invaluable role teachers play in education. This partnership can only work by embracing compromise and coming to an equitable agreement with VTA. And I'd also like to point out, you brought up what teachers are going through right now economically. If their head's almost underwater, classified employees are at the bottom of the pool. We make a fraction of their money. But we hear from the district, from representatives from HR, that apparently we're not supposed to be here for the money. How can I focus on the students that I work with when I can't make ends meet? This is the phone calls and messages I get from members almost every day. What are they supposed to do? I keep getting that response from the district. It's not about the money. I hear this from people that make more money than I will ever make, more money than any teacher will, from ivory towers. This is what the board should remember. Thank you.
And this, Vivian, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Dr. Doyle. I'm here.
Vivian's is coming up at this point. Buenas tardes, gracias por estar aquí.
Buenas
Buenas tardes a todos y a todos los presentes.
Good evening, everyone present.
Actualización de DILAC para la mesa directiva.
This is the update for DLEC for the Vista board.
DILAC realizó una junta oficial el lunes 23 de enero del 2023.
DLEC conducted an official meeting on Monday, January 23rd, 2023.
Se cumplió el quórum con 13 de 22 escuelas representadas.
Quorum was met with 13 out of 22 schools present.
En esta reunión se completaron dos tareas.
In this meeting, we completed 2 tasks.
Tarea 6. Desarrollo de un plan para asegurar el cumplimiento de los requisitos aplicables de maestros y asistentes de maestros.
Task number 6, the development of a plan to ensure compliance with any applicable teacher and/or teacher aid requirements.
Tarea número 1, desarrollo de un plan maestro del distrito para programas y servicios educativos para estudiantes de inglés. El plan maestro del distrito tomará en consideración los planes maestros del sitio escolar.
Task number 1, the development of a district master plan for education programs and services for English language learners. The district master plan will take into consideration the school site master plans.
Con respecto a estas dos tareas, DILAC quisiera respetuosamente recomendar que
In regards to these tasks, I would like to respectfully recommend from DLAC that
tarea número 6, el distrito comparta la estrategia y el plan para recluir a más maestros, ya que hay una escasez de maestros en California.
for task number 6, the district share the strategy and plan to recruit more teachers as there is a teacher shortage in California.
Tarea número 1, el distrito y cada escuela se aseguren de que el desarrollo de inglés designado e integrado ELD se esté cumpliendo todos los días en cada escuela. Recomendamos que se aplique un instrumento en medición para que sea evidente que el programa se está cumpliendo.
Task number 1, the district and each school ensure that designated and integrated ELD is happening every day in all of our schools. We recommend that a system, some type of measuring instrument, be implemented to show that the program, the ELD program, is being implemented correctly.
La próxima junta oficial de DILAC se llevará a cabo el lunes 20 de marzo a las 6 de la tarde en VIC.
The next official DLAC meeting will be held on Monday, March 20th at 6 p.m. at the Vista Innovation Center.
El lunes 27 de febrero, DILAC patrocinará una junta informativa acerca de la seguridad en las escuelas y las escuelas de comunidad.
On Monday, February 28th, DLAC will host an informational meeting on school safety and community schools.
Es todo. Buenas tardes.
That is all. Good evening, everybody.
It is late if you would.
She's got a report.
That's twice.
Next on the list.
I'm so sorry. Next on the agenda is our report from Mission Vista High School.
Haley, come on up. So it's a tradition, board members, that each of our student board members get a report on the status of their school. We appreciate your leadership. And to introduce the student board member, we always ask the principal to make that introduction. So Principal Walters, if you could come up and introduce your amazing student board leader.
Absolutely.
And I do want to get a
Come
really
on,
quick
next to him.
picture,
Next to him.
the two of you, because it's
Yeah.
nice to be here, so, and you can start.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Doyle, student board members. It's an honor to be here to introduce Haley Michael. She's our student board representative this year. Amazing leader on campus. She's also our ASB president, has her hand in just about everything related to school culture. But she's not one to want the spotlight. She's more behind the scenes and giving credit to others. We look at the values of our district and Haley embodies all of those. So it's a privilege to work with you, Haley, and please tell us about Mission Vista.
Good evening, board members, student board members, and audience members. My name is Haley Michael, and I'm representing Mission Vista High School. I am beyond grateful for my time with Vista Unified School District, and I'm so excited to be sharing my report with you this evening. Continuing to recover from COVID-19, Mission Vista is more than proud to honor over 600 students who have received and earned a 4.0 GPA or higher the 2023 fall term. 23 of our amazing seniors are enrolled in the My Vision personalized capstone class, where each student is designing a project of their own to present and showcase to our community in May. We have also brought back our patient care courses, a new CTE pathway, which were entirely full this year. Our students continue to impress us with their efforts and dedication to succeed academically. This school year has brought more school spirit than we have had since before COVID-19. The culture and spirit among students continues to grow since we have come back to in-person school. Last term, Mission Vista hosted our first pep rally since before COVID. It was amazing to see our students could witness and participate in such an event. Mission Vista has been booming with over 100 clubs as school culture has begun to rise. As ASB president, I am fortunate to have the opportunity to help our school culture and spirit bloom and grow. ASB recently collected over 200 socks and sweaters to donate to Operation Hope Vista to ensure that every family receives warmth this cold season. Our ASB leaders have worked hard to put on our annual winter formal, fall fest, movie night, student versus staff games, pep rallies, and spirit weeks. Our first karaoke night in years is tomorrow night, featuring our students' favorite staff singing their favorite songs. I am excited to see the progress our ASB junior class has made on our upcoming prom in May. It's going to be spectacular. Our ASB seniors are working hard to put on senior events to honor and celebrate our wonderful senior class. I'm so proud of our student leaders within ASB and Link Crew for spreading positivity and spirit around campus. With COVID, it has been difficult to restore the spirit of Mission Vista, but progress has definitely been made. I cannot forget about Mission Vista's performing arts programs. Last term, musical theater put on a wonderful production, Trap, and hosted their fall coffee houses and showcases. Our impeccable MVHS choirs produced their Cats Pajamas concert, Fall Fantastic concert, Comfort and Joy concert, and had the opportunity to experience the opera in concert along with multiple festivals. Our incredible steel drum ensemble performed 2 outstanding concerts last term. Dance hosted a dance show in which dances were choreographed by the students themselves, and another popular show, Dancing with the Timberwolves, where the dance team includes people and friends from around school into their dances. Dancing with the Timberwolves recently had its debut with a full house in theater and was so fun to watch. We are excited to see musical theater's upcoming show, Something Rotten, and Spring Coffee House. Bel Canto and Maestrosa choirs will be performing their Spring Festival concert, Pops concert, and multiple choir festivals coming soon. We cannot wait to see our steel drum ensemble perform 2 concerts this term. We're excited to see Mission Vista's dance team hosting their upcoming showcase in late spring. Our beautiful Ballet Folklorico dancers are hosting their debut show next month. We're excited and we're looking forward to supporting and seeing all of our performing arts students perform during their upcoming shows. This year, Mission Vista has had more athletes than ever before, leading to new levels and an expansion of our athletics programs. Our girls basketball team ended with their season strong within their division. Our boys basketball team was on fire this season as they won first in the league for the first time in Mission Vista history, leading that team to play deep into the 2023 CIF Championship playoffs. MVHS spring sports are beginning, and we hope to see many of our teams in the playoffs at the end of the term. Go Timberwolves! As I hope I've been able to express, there are many, many great things happening at Mission Vista, and I'm so proud to be a part of that work. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to serve as a student board member on the board, and I'm definitely enjoying the experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that report. Lots of great things happening at Mission Vista High School because of the staff, the students, parents, everyone there. So thank you for your presentation. All right. Now, if you guys would like to leave, don't be embarrassed, but you're welcome to stay, okay? It's been a long, first part of our meeting. All right, next on the agenda is 8B. We have the board goals draft number 1.
Yep, we're ready to start. You can come on up, Dr. Olmsted. We're getting the screen ready to share. Dr. Olmsted. So, board members, last regularly scheduled meeting.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure you're do the introduction. Very well done. All right, so our last regularly scheduled board meeting, if you remember, we brought to you, actually it was a special board meeting. We brought to you some initial ideas about resetting our goals for the year. It's an annual process, as you all know. You gave us some excellent feedback. We have just a brief follow-up Tonight, the purpose of tonight is not to vote on anything. You're simply giving us one last round of feedback as we make final adjustments. Our next meeting, which is not too far off in the future, you will have to be voting on the goals so we can move forward with our strategic plan. So we have just a quick process. We want to run through this with you. We have given you this information many days in advance, so hopefully we can get through it quickly. We're in February. We have 2 more sessions before we're done with the complete process. We're hoping that in March, you'll approve the final revision of the goals because we can't write the strategic plan unless we have the goals. With that, these were the key areas of focus at our previous discussion that prompted then the feedback that you had given us. I've highlighted, and this is your feedback, I've highlighted one in green because one of the main points of feedback was that we would bring back to you a variety of options. One option was similar to the current goals we have. Another option was maybe a little bit greater level of specificity. And then we threw in a third option that has kind of a different approach to the goals to see how you feel. Tonight, your feedback should be on anything you like. If you don't like any of our options, give us feedback so we can go back and make other adjustments. Ultimately, these are goals that the board needs to live with and appreciate. You will not hurt our feelings if you'd like us to go back to the drawing table and create other processes. As we develop these draft goals, we did take your feedback into consideration. So I'll go over the first one, and then Christine and I will share the second one. So the first set of goals are revised, although it looks like they're the same. So I'll point out a couple revisions to you, and then we'll go on to the second set and the third set, and then at the end, you can give us feedback on each. If you would like to jump in and ask questions as we're doing it, we're happy to do that as well. So goal number 1, similar to last year's goal, still focuses on the conditions of learning, but we did adjust the last part of it. And this was one of the directions the board gave us. So I'll read the last part after the conditions of learning. That challenge students, and here's the part that was changed, to achieve the outcomes of the learner portrait and staff to achieve the outcomes of the adult portrait. So we kind of rolled that into it. Goal number 2, Ms. Eller's not here tonight, but actually used to be goal number 3. And so you all agreed at that point too, that maybe we put engagement before we have outcomes. So goal number 2 is our students will be engaged in their learning through a series of performance opportunities. Here's the part that has been adjusted, that demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and application of grade level standards through relevant connections to local and global challenges. So there's been some adjustments there. And then finally, goal number 3, which originally was goal number 2, is our students will demonstrate improved academic, and here's the new part, social and emotional and behavioral outcomes as a result of, and this is a new part as well, a multi-tiered continuum of support. And I'd like Christine to go over the meaning of universal, supplemental, and intensified.
So universal is our core level of instruction. It's what all students get regardless of eligibility for other services. It's our best first instruction. That is our universal support, or sometimes you'll hear it referred to as tier 1. Supplemental support is when kids don't respond to that first best instruction. We have additional support in place. It could be more small group instruction. It could be bringing in a learning specialist, more ELD support, something like that, where it's more contained to a small group of students who didn't respond to that first best instruction. It's supposed to be for a 6 to 8 week period that you provide the supplemental support and hope that they respond and get those gaps met that they may not have received in that first universal tier. So it's just another way to measure growth. When kids don't respond to that supplemental instruction that they get, we then move it up to an intensive level of support. And that might be one-on-one support. It might be bringing in an additional set of specialists. It's again an 8-week support where you're monitoring progress over time and hoping that they get those skills needed to then have those gains made and you're back not having to provide those interventions.
So before we jump on to the next option, one of the purposes for our adjustment here was in response to, I believe what Board Member Vargas said, he would like to see a little bit more specificity. So we made these a little bit more specific than the original goals that were definitely general. So one last thing before we jump on to option 2, regardless of whatever option board goals you choose, each of these goals will have a nested set of metrics. Remember we talked about that? And those are actual numbers and processes to actually track the efficacy of the implementation of the goals. So regardless of whatever goals you approve, we're required by the state of California to have metrics, for which there are many. And you're familiar with those metrics. Metrics like the percentage of students attending school, attendance rate, chronic absenteeism rate, of course, achievement results on state assessments, so various metrics like that, there's quite a few. So this is option number one. Would you like us to go through all three, or do you want to get us feedback on that? Would you like to hear all three first? Is that better? Okay, let's move on to this one. So this option I'm going to introduce, and Christina and I are going to tag team on this one. This one is much more complex. I kind of like this, but it's super complex. And I want to go back to, we designed these goals. We'll go over them in a moment, but if you notice, the goal at the top is identical to the goal we just read, but we put some levels of specificity under each one. And where we got that specificity was from this feedback. We actually took this feedback and designed specificity under each of those areas. So with that, we're gonna go over them quickly. Goal number one, I'll do one, and you can do 2 and 3. Goal number one, again, similar to the goal that we previously read. Our students and staff will have equitable access to the conditions of learning that challenge students to achieve the outcomes of the learner portrait, and staff to achieve the outcomes of the adult portrait. We have 2 sub goals that we feel would really support that and provide a little bit greater level of specificity. The first sub goal is our students and staff will participate in discussions and activities that reinforce our equity board policy, including addressing implicit bias, trauma-informed care, restorative practice, anti-racism, and kindness. And the second sub goal would be our students have access to a course of study that meets graduation requirements, aligns to A through G requirements, and challenges them to engage in career exploration activities that align to the priority sectors regionally and nationally. Our second goal.
So again, same as our broad goal, but our students will be engaged in their learning through a series of performance opportunities that demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and application of grade level standards through relevant connections to local and global challenges. Our sub goals there, our students will be engaged in lessons that are universally designed, culturally responsive, and assets-based. That is really part of first best instruction when we talk about that universal tier. Our students will be engaged in project-based learning opportunities that allow them multiple ways to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding of grade level content and make relevant connections to the world around them. So that's really that performance framework that we're looking at and competency-based learning that we're looking at there. And then for goal 3, our students will demonstrate improved academic, social, emotional, and behavior outcomes as a result of a multi-tiered continuum of support with that universal, supplemental, and intensive supports. Sub-goal A, our students will be actively engaged on a daily basis in a rigorous academic course of study that is based on district-adopted curriculum and instructional materials, so our guaranteed and viable curriculum that we invest in. Sub-goal B, our students will participate in frequent performance tasks that require demonstration of learning and reflection. And then sub-goal C, our students will co-construct activities and projects that require them to develop and refine age-appropriate interpersonal skills that align to our learner portrait and our district values.
And one addition I'd like to make is sub-goal B. I'll read it again and I'll explain why it's important to make this distinction. Our students will participate in frequent performance tasks that require demonstrations of learning and reflection. One of the important aspects of the work we've done with Nicole McAllister, who's leading our work on equity and really led the process on developing our equity board policy, is making sure that students have opportunities to show what they know rather than focusing and drawing conclusions on their ability based on grades. And so performance tasks are abilities for them to actually show something rather than having other people render a judgment on how well they're doing. So I just wanted to point that aspect out. So that is option 2, obviously much more detail to it, and we captured all your feedback on that previous slide in these. And then the third one is a little bit of a kind of a curveball, same concept, but we wanted to approach it from a different perspective. And this is actually Dr. Olmstead's idea, so I'm going to have her walk you through it. You may want to start with what's the concept of the theory of action.
So a theory of action is basically an if-then statement. If we do this, then these results will occur. So we took the approach of actually developing these goals into theories of action. This is actually a recommendation from the state to write our board goals as a theory of action. So this is our attempt at doing that. If we do this, then this will happen. So if we focus on implementation of the systems and adult portraits, then we will create equitable access to the conditions of learning that challenge students to achieve the outcomes of the learner portrait and be ready to thrive in their lives and careers. Okay, makes sense. If we do this, then this happens. If we focus on student engagement for goal 2, then adults will create lessons that are universally designed, culturally responsive, and assets-based, And students will engage in project-based learning opportunities that allow them multiple ways to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding of grade level content and make relevant connections to the world around them. So if you notice from the previous slide, we kind of truncated all of them instead of having those sub goals A, B, C. And then goal 3, if we implement a multi-tiered continuous support for students with fidelity, then adults will know their students by their strengths, interests, and values, and students will be able to engage in rigorous learning opportunities that require them to develop and refine age-appropriate interpersonal skills that allow them to demonstrate the elements of the learner portrait and our district values.
And that's where we are. Those are our recommendations. There should we have 3 choices. You could have a 4th choice or send it back to the drawing table and come up with another approach.
Right.
And I'll hand it back to the board president so you guys can deliberate and give us feedback. You're not voting on this tonight. We just need feedback.
We're gonna start here with Rose.
Don't, please, don't start with me.
Okay, I'm just trying to be.
Otherwise, I don't have my thoughts on it as well.
All right. All right,
We'll
well,
come out of here.
trustee Vargas.
Yep, so I know originally I asked for like specificity, and part of that reason is, going along with our superintendent evaluation so that we can correlate the metrics and the performance based on that. If we're gonna get metrics on any of these, like that's, fine with either one of them, but option 2 does look too wordy, so I am concerned about that. The focus on, my preference would be with option 1.
Okay, trustee Morocco.
I like option 3. My question actually, Cipriano kind of actually trustee Marcus, kind of touched on it, is option 3, is that measurable? I mean, are we able to measure?
Our actions are what would be measurable under that goal.
Okay, so, but as far as attaining the goals. So, for example, on goal 1, to achieve the outcomes of the learner portrait and be ready to thrive in their lives and career. So that's not something that we could measure.
Oh, we can measure all of that just from the goal. So we can measure implementation based on observations and walkthroughs and all of those kind of things. We can measure equitable access to the conditions of learning. Same thing, it's, observations and those kind of things. And then the outcomes of the learner portrait, we're working on rubrics right now that address the learner portrait. And how do you show competency in those areas? So that is something that we'll be able to measure based on work that our teachers are doing right now. And then ready to thrive in their lives and careers, we can do longitudinal data studies with our university partners and our Vista partners in businesses to see how our students are progressing beyond high school. So these are all measurable.
What we would normally do, board member Morocco, is come up with a set of metrics. And those metrics would actually have numbers associated. So then we could actually say, we anticipate this as our baseline. And then over the course of 3 years, we would propose this level of growth. And you will see that likely in the May meeting after you approve your goals, then we create the metrics. And then you can always get feedback, give us feedback on the metrics if you'd like us to tweak those even.
I tend to lean towards option 3.
All right. Trustee Kelly.
Hi, I like 1 and 3 quite a bit. I agree with previous comments. Option 2 is a little too dense. And there's a word that keeps kind of like rubbing me the wrong way in goal 1, which is creating the conditions of learning that challenge students to achieve the outcomes. I think we should be enabling our students to achieve the outcomes. To challenge them to get to an outcome sounds like it's a negative.
Excellent feedback.
Thank you. I also, in option 1, the word improved, our students will demonstrate improved academic, et cetera, outcomes. That builds into it a comparison to some previous point in time that's not defined. So I would say, again, that's going to be difficult to manage and also a little slippery.
We'll take it back and kind of.
Yeah, maybe quality outcomes, or, I know where we're going with improved, but it builds in a comparison to something that we, want to always be moving from.
We, just for the record, and again, we could easily wordsmith that out. We chose to improve as part of the LCAP process, which the goals are designed for, the local control accountability process. One of the areas of focus is demonstrating improved and increased services for students. So we can easily change that.
And then I believe in constant improvement, but I think it gets tricky to manage, you know, it's always improved. So yeah, I'm a little undecided between 1 and 3. I like qualities of both of them, so you can put me down for either, I guess, depending on how the consensus goes.
Right. Trustee Smithfield.
I too have a problem with the word challenge. But that's history. I think I like 3. I've never seen this before, but I really think I like that. If we do this, then this will happen. It's new and it's different, and sometimes it's just good to change things up a little bit, you know? So that was mine, and then my next one would be 1, and then, yeah, 2, I would look at that and I would put it away. I wouldn't.
I know. So TLDR, 3 or 1. You know, and looking at challenge, I like empower or facilitate. I think those are better verbs, because it's our job to provide the necessary support so that every student thrives.
I like Julie's.
We're taking notes, so this is exactly what we need today.
And it looks like 1. Trustee Vargas said 1, Trustee Kelly was 1 or 3, Trustee Snowfield 1 or 3.
I said 3.
3 or 1. You said 3 or, okay, you said 3 or 1.
I said 3 and then.
Then you said or 1.
Yeah, Trustee Morocco said 3.
Okay.
So I think we're going to 3.
What
Can I
about
count?
you? President?
I haven't.
I'm sorry.
Processing. So you said that the state really wants us to go towards this theory of action version. Elaborate a bit more why, please.
Because theory of actions actually relate to a process that districts have been taken through across the state called continuous improvement. And our LCAP process is a continuous improvement process. And so in order to have continuous improvement, you start with a theory of action. If we do this, then this will happen. And through a continuous improvement process, you're constantly looking at your data to say, are we moving the needle on the outcomes that we said we were going to get to? And you're doing that process really through 9-week cycles of inquiry to measure growth over time. And so that's where they're kind of recommending to move toward the theory of action to say, this is what we really intend to do. And we know how we're going to measure it. And here's how we're going to measure it on a regular basis, not just one time when we put the LCAP away and then we do it again at the end of the year. It's really this continuous improvement process that we're looking for and saying, we are committing to saying, if we do this, we think this will happen. And we can change it over time. If what we think will happen isn't happening, that's when we change we either need to look at the metrics differently, we need to add a new metric or something like that. So it's all about continuous improvement.
So I think I'm gonna go to option 3 for several reasons. I like that number 2, goal 2 speaks specifically to being culturally responsive, asset-based. And I think, you know, for a long time in education, we focus so much on what a child's weakness is versus being asset-based. And so now I see that in our goal and it, I hope will shift the way every adult views the students that we serve. So I like it. I like number 2 for that. Well, I like, it's option 3, but goal 2. And then goal 3, I like because rigorous learning opportunities. And I think in some of our schools, we haven't given kids the rigor that they deserve and that they need, because we're always coming from a weakness perspective. Oh, well, this label, this child has to learn English, this child has an IEP, this child is poor. And so we need to step up the game with rigorous learning opportunities in all of our schools. So I like goal number 3 of option 3. So I think with me liking 3, that goes, but 3 trustees preferring number 3. 3 and 3. That must mean something.
We're all kind of.
So, President Alvarado, what I'm hearing is there's at least consensus on goal 3 with the agreement that we're going to adjust some of the language from the feedback from the board members, for which we will do. We will bring this back to you in just a few weeks at the next meeting, and you will still have an opportunity to make adjustments if you're not happy with it. But we do need to make a decision at our next board meeting. You can make a decision with revisions, but because we need to get moving with the plans. And that's all I need for this item. I think we had enough feedback.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And our next presentation is Animals at School, Board Policy 616-322. Transportation.
I do.
It's okay.
John, it's okay.
Sean, I've been skipping people all night.
All right, so I have to, before Dr. Loescher begins, I do have to say that Dr. Loescher, bless his heart, has had this presentation ready for a number of board meetings, but we were busy with other items. So thank you for your patience, Dr. Loescher. I know you wanted to share them. And Dr. Loescher also has been providing in the Friday letter every Friday an update because it's a changing paradigm on transportation. So we appreciate your patience and we look forward to hearing from you tonight on transportation.
Well, that's very kind. No, my pleasure, President Alvarado, and to the entire Board of Trustees. What we want to be able to do this evening is give you just an update as to what has happened over transportation over the last 7 months. We do provide monthly metric updates on these items, so that way you can follow along as we go along. There is some ways of looking at this that there's good news, but there isn't the news we're hoping for, which is never a wonderful thing to have to deliver, but we deliver you the news no matter how it is. When I arrived, we had a situation where we had to look at making tough decisions, which the board made on these items. So for this evening, we're going to look at a timeline overview because we do have a new board member with us. So we have a new board. We want to make sure we have the timeline in place. We're going to do a quick situational outlook as to what's there and not to be anticlimactic and to disobey my fifth grade teacher. The preview is there aren't routes to restore, but we didn't lose routes, and we would have lost routes if it wasn't for the efforts of our HR department to do what we had done. So that is the positive outlook that's there. We'll look at ridership, wait lists, and a variety of other factors as well. So just quickly as we move through, just a quick background of spring and summer. Spring of 2002, actually one of my introductions to Dr. Doyle was at a time when you were bringing forward the notion of crisis, that we have a national, not a Vista, a national state crisis around drivers, bus drivers of all kinds, Teamsters of all kinds, but in particular school bus drivers. That is the culmination of a variety of factors. As we moved into August, we noted that the shortfalls were going to result in us having to make tough decisions, and there were those decisions made. Routes were paused at Hanalei Lake, Monte Vista, the Leadership Academy, and routes were reduced or shuttle services were changed for Rancho Minerva and the rest of the middle schools, Roosevelt and Madison. Mission Meadows Elementary School went to modified routes, Breeze Hill modified, special education routes, moved for non-public school options. We tried to outsource as many of those as we could with our partnerships.
In addition, we also got to Mission Vista.
We did. We saw 2 of the 3.
A shuttle service.
We did. 2 of the 3 were moved to, were paused. 1 was moved to a shuttle service just here out front, which was a regression of service from previous years. In September of 2002, we did some follow-up presentations to give you some initial feedback as to what was happening and give you an estimated timeline of what was going on. We were starting our own driver's school. Driver's school, not quite as what we might think of as our own educational experience. It is a school where you start with a large pool of people, and through the process, not our own process, California Highway Patrol process, if you do not pass your competencies, you are asked to leave the class. So we started that in September and trained our first group through, which happened throughout this last semester. In November, we provided you with more metric updates as to what we were looking at with those classes as we were running them. Again, in December, we demonstrated that driver candidates were becoming drivers, so we were becoming successful. Much higher percentage rate of success than we were expecting, but not as many drivers as we were needing and out. Moving on to the next slide, where we are as of February. As of February 15th, we've been successful in hiring 7 new bus drivers. That's actually for a district our size with the number of drivers we have. This is a large percentage for a hire. 7 may not feel like a lot, but that's well above what we would annually hire. However, we also have new driver deficits. We have 1 driver that retired. We are always looking at our average age of our drivers. And it comes to a time period where they've reached their retirement, and we wish them their best. A second factor that came into play is 3 more drivers went out on long-term leave. This was either medical or family. And by long-term, we're looking at 8 to 20 weeks. Some cases we don't know. Could be a year long that they're out. So we had 3 more drivers move into long-term leave. A factor 3 is that 2 of those special education routes that we were hoping would be picked up on a regular basis, that driving company also has shortages. They have not picked the children up on a regular basis, so we have had to pick those routes up back onto us. And then the next factor 4 is not as impactful as it's been in other departments, but impacted transportation quite heavily, which is we have 1 more person than we normally do out per day on sickness due to flu or COVID or other items through the season. Other departments are seeing an uptick much larger than 1 or 2. So we're grateful that it is only 1, but you're going to add up that number and realize that means 7 drivers are not present for service at this time. So the 7 new drivers offset that. Again, the wonderful news is thanks to the efforts of HR and their entire team, is this would have represented, if we didn't have the 7 new drivers, the cancellation of all general education routes mid-year, which would have been devastating for our families. I know it had. So for our next steps in looking at what's happening is we do have round 2 of new candidates. We do have 4 qualified new candidates that are going through bus driver school. They do it here just down the way. If it ever happens again on a board meeting night, you're welcome to stop by and learn about driving across train tracks and all sorts of wonderful things that they do.
On that first cohort, how many drivers started and made complete?
20 started, 7 completed, and we're full hire.
Yeah, so can we expect 2 out of this 4 candidates?
Well, mid-year, we will expect more along 3 of the 4 would pass. Mid-year, these are people that have decided to make a full career change in the middle of the year. So they're looking a little differently. So typically mid-year hires do a bit better. If we look at our metrics, as far as January shuttle routes and ridership, why are we looking at January, not February? Well, we looked at the February numbers and we want to make sure that they're accurate. January, we're certified. So we want, when we present to the public, we always want to present numbers that have been certified as accurate. January is the last certification. When we look through our numbers, we see that we do not have on our current shuttles full buses. So we do not have a wait list at this time. That does not mean we do not have families. And I want to clarify this. Doesn't mean we don't have families that are interested in transportation. It means that we haven't offered those routes, so they're not signing up for them necessarily. So I want to clarify, but there is no wait list for any of our current shuttle buses. And to clarify, over time, month over month ridership has not increased. It has decreased month over month.
I have one question, sir. So just for the public who may be watching or anyone in the room, a shuttle is, they have to go to a central location and then they get a ride from that central location to the school that they are attending, but it's not necessarily where, if we had all bus routes reinstated, where it would typically pick them up closer to home. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct. President Alvarado, what you've touched on is really key here. In order to maximize how many routes we could get in, where we might have 1 driver before that would cover just middle school, and they would stop at a variety of routes along the way. Every time you stop takes time. Instead of stopping at 12 different stops or 13 different stops, they have 1 stop where families gather at a midpoint through. With the time saved in that, this was the model we brought forward, with the time saved in being able to make that shuttle route, they then can go to another shuttle route and service an elementary school.
Right.
But at that elementary school, they also would have been able to. So you're absolutely accurate.
So,
It was
we
different.
talked about that, in length when we had to make these very difficult decisions, and sometimes I like to ask the question just for the public, because it's good to clarify and witness. Anyone else have any questions to this slide before you proceed?
Just that, we're not at capacity, it's not, looks like on any of these.
That is accurate.
And, I do have one question. On the shuttles, do they have the same driver requirements as driving a bus?
Yes, so to clarify what we were speaking about, and thank you for that question, so that way we can clarify for the public at large. When we say shuttle, shuttle is the style of one stop and one destination. It's not a change of the size of the bus. These are still huge buses with the same requirements for licensing requirements. These are still huge buses that require full bus driver licenses.
Anyone else before he moves on to the next slide? Okay.
I guess I do have a question. When we talked about this in the summer, I had asked us to look into some other solutions like walking school buses and some safe routes to school. Have we made any progress with those initiatives?
So with the PTA, we actually, and it's here this evening, we did go through, and our PTA was incredibly supportive in running options through the PTA and discussions about walking routes or community routes and community-based service initiatives. Based upon what we're permitted to do as a district and talk about, we can talk about them in general, but they're actually not our programs and we can't report back to you on them for risk liability reasons, but those were all discussed. And full credit goes to the Unified Council of PTAs and every PTA that participated in this, every principal that put together nights. And for parents that hosted either at a school or off-site, really community building events where they were able to say, let's network out ourselves and figure out how to do these things. So those efforts did in fact occur.
Right. Moving on to the next slide. Or the next slide that we should discuss.
This is again, just an overview as to where we sat. Again, you're gonna see wait list numbers where we are currently offering items. You're not seeing a wait list. That's because we're offering shuttle routes. That's to be expected. What we want to note at the top of the page is there were wait lists that were generated for schools that were placed on pause. We also said we would report back to you various numbers of transportation-based transfer requests, because remember, you also offer the community opportunity. If you're being impacted by this transportation crisis that we're experiencing, you have options. So we did have some people that would make a site-based transfer. It was at Monte Vista, we had 3 families, which represent 5 children. One family had 3 children that requested to move to another site. We did have one family that was not at a school that was impacted, figure out that they could put in a request. So they put in a request that was denied, but they did request to transfer because their school didn't offer transportation. But the impacts have not changed from the beginning of the year. We did not see the uptick of anybody requesting transfers throughout the year. It happened at a one-time event shortly after the board gave us direction, and those numbers have not changed. We are into our next cycle. This slide looks a little differently on slides that have been presented over time, insofar that there's not a process map to it with green and gray showing where we are, because we've already completed this and now this is an ongoing way of doing things. Thanks to our partnership with HRCSEA, we now have 2 bus driver trainers. Second one is becoming fully trained at this time. This allows for us to continue this process of training ongoing. You still are sorted into 2 groups. You either have a license or you don't. If you don't have a license, we will get you a license. We'll train you. We're an education institution. We know how to do that. Okay. If you have a license, it doesn't mean that you get to drive a bus immediately. These are our children and our streets and our standards. You have to learn your route. You have to learn the traffic patterns. You have to learn the dangers of the area. So you're either those in need of a license or applicants with a license. It still takes them 5 to 10 weeks to be hired on board and then trained. For recruitment and development, I cannot thank our HR department enough. Rachel will disagree and tell me I can and to do harder work on it. But I really can't thank them enough. Everybody became part of HR, including our superintendent. We all went out to school sites, met with parents. We recruited parents into the profession. We have them looking ahead. I nearly convinced one of our principals to retire to become a bus driver, pointing out they could collect from 2 retirement.
Thank you.
funds. Yeah, that was from the Leadership Academy to be specific, and she ended up saying no. At the end. But we continue. It's going to be ongoing, and we are doing better than other places by far. We're doing better than other places by far for specific reasons. One, the efforts of our HR department. 2, that we got out and we're doing things proactively. 3, the increased hours that were passed by this board and pay rates passed by this board. We are now the best paying of all the area for bus drivers with the most number of hours and what all of that allows. So we are ahead of it, but it's going to take a while to catch up. This is going to be multiple cycles before we're fully caught up. For next steps is just continued driver recruitment and completion of new driver courses that we just plan to continuously offer from this point forward as the new way that we have to do business in order to be of service to our community. With that, I will turn it over to our superintendent to lead us through board feedback and comment.
Board feedback. I have a couple of questions, actually. On the slide where road to be doing the bus rider status. So VUSD has its own training program. Do people have to pay for that, or so it's free?
So there's several routes in. Yes, first of all, the school is free. And the second is, and this is something I think that Vista should be incredibly proud of. If you come in and you're not ready to be a bus driver, you can actually apply to be a bus driver assistant or aide and be working for us, being paid, go to school, be fully reimbursed for any fees. We're paying for your school and then become a bus driver and receive a bonus for becoming a bus driver.
That's awesome. That's a really good opportunity.
So it's a whole system for workflow, and that's highly unique to what Vista has proposed here to be able to do that. So yes, you don't pay for the class. But you have various options. You can choose not to do that. Some people choose to remain at their current job. These are night classes. You also will see that you have people that currently work for us in other positions that come to us at night. So they'll work 8-hour+ days and then come to these classes. These classes are 4 hours at night.
Do you not have any daytime classes?
We don't have daytime classes because nighttime classes maximize the options for people. So that way they can go.
My thinking was, I've thought this for some time, that reaching out to retirement communities, this could be a good job for retiree.
It's a wonderful job for a retiree. I speak about this from firsthand family experience. My uncle Harry is a retired from the Navy mechanic who drives a bus. Or he is recently retired, part of the issue actually. Sorry, Uncle Harry. But before that, he drove up for Menifee and became a bus driver.
But so I'm not sure that the nighttime class would appeal to that class of candidate. So that would be my only concern about.
Yeah. We've had some positive feedback, but we'll certainly look into that further. Several of the candidates are retirees that have come to us.
Well, then. Trustee Gallagher.
I think I have a request back. The application window for Mission Vista High School is currently open, and our desire as a board in having general ed routes to go there was to remove the distance factor from families making the choice, where a student might be best served at Mission Vista, but because of its location, I think many students cannot get there reliably. So I think the communication needs to go out to prospective Mission Vista families with the outlook that, we are not in a position to be restoring the general ed routes that existed in the 21-22 school year. Just so people can make their decisions. I wish we had other news for them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a perennial thing I'm sure we have, kept a toe in the door, but working with North County Transit District, and having representation there, perhaps, you know, as a district and through our city council representatives to keep, you know, squeaky wheeling and articulating our need for public transportation to support student transportation.
Absolutely, thank you.
Trustee Smithfield?
Question before I share my thought. Have you set up your liaison in terms with the Oceanside City Council?
I've been reaching out. We did have our meeting with the Vista, city manager. And, I've been reaching out, Dr. Doyle has reached out.
Yeah, this is typical.
We'll keep doing it until we get the meeting.
Because they've done that. But if by chance we have a miracle and somebody does reach out to you, because this is technically Oceanside's
Yes.
thing with the transit, which we tried for years, and Julie, they just really don't want to bring a bus down that road, but it would be, we would need Oceanside to help us out for once.
I will continue to do
I would
whatever
appreciate that.
emails, phone calls I've done, but I will follow up.
This historical perspective, our new board member, because of just mentioned that the physical location off the 76, it's been very difficult for us to have Oceanside and NCTD, North County Transit District, agree to putting a bus stop there. So we're continuing to work on that. We just met with Corinne Contreras, one of our city council members. She actually works for NCTD. She's totally committed to helping us resolve this.
She doesn't work for them. She is the
Vista City rep.
she's the rep, that's their committee for city council. But yeah, she's very, you know what, Councilman Contreras, she rides the bus herself. She wants to know what our kids go through every day. And so she's working diligently. I think though that we're getting to a point with some of the labor, both in buses in public schools and also the North County Transit, that they can't get their drivers either. But we'll keep on, right?
And my only other comment is, thank you so much, Sean, for doing this, Rachel. Everybody that went out to the fairs and everything else, open houses and said, come be a bus driver, please. And I know we're trying, just keep it up, we'll get there. Thank you.
Trustee Vargas?
My only feedback is that the youth opportunity passes for public transportation have been extended.
Yes.
And so we could, you know, promote them, even if it's not permission business specifically, but we have other school sites with other nearby public bus stops. And so we could start, you know, promoting that and, you know, for the kids that do qualify, you know, let's make sure that they get access to that.
Yes. I don't think you that.
All right, so I think that was the last of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roger.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, staff committee is item 8D, animals at school. Board policy 6163.2.
All right, thank you. So tonight I'll be reviewing the district's animals at school board policy from the 6,000 series and providing information on the status of current animals that we have on campuses. And as always, we like to, when we're talking about board policies and administrative regulations, looking at our vision and now our new portraits. And also keeping in mind our values on how we behave and treat each other, respect, trust, collaboration, equity, and kindness. So our current board policy is very short. This is aligned to the California School Boards Association policy. It's actually word for word. All throughout the districts, it is the same. And the quote I was pulling out of this is for tonight is recognizes that animals can contribute to the district's instructional program by being effective teaching aids to students and by assisting individuals with disabilities to access district programs and activities. It also refers to instruction and care. So we always, know how to treat animals, and directs the superintendent, the designee or designee to develop rules and procedures to ensure safety, health, and welfare of students, staff, and the animals. So our administrative regulation It's actually longer. I did click it on here. Anybody can go through and read that, but it does only refer to service animals at school. And I did kind of italicize number 2 there, which states only individuals with a disability and individuals authorized to train service dogs for individuals with a disability may request to bring a service dog in training on school property and or facilities and at school functions. So that's our current administrative regulation. So with this presentation, I learned a lot about assistance dogs. And this will focus on 3 types of assistance dogs and the districts, and I utilized Canine Companion's website along with meeting with their, one of their managers and got some information from them as well. So there's 3 types of assistance dogs that we have in Vista Unified. And just, kind of hitting on a few of the points there, facility dog, and I'll go on each one in depth a little bit more. They're partnered with a facilitator, and this facilitator is an employee of the USD for our facility dogs that are here. And they typically work in healthcare, visitation, or education settings. And they utilize to enhance therapies, promote participation, and reduce anxiety for clients, which in this case, clients would be students. Service dogs are partnered with adults with physical disabilities, and they would assist with anything that they need, while they're at work. A therapy dog is a little bit different. I know sometimes the facility therapy dogs are very similar, but a therapy dog is somebody, a volunteer or an employee outside of the organization, and they accompany with the owner and they provide therapeutic intervention. And I'll go over where we currently have a therapy dog in the district. I also linked Canine Companion's website there, so anybody can look on there. These were taken from that. All right. So now I'll go into some additional specific information regarding each type of the assistant dogs. And the facility dogs, they are trained to perform service dog commands. They're utilized to enhance therapies, as I said, and they facilitate social interactions. So I did pull out the eligibility requirements from Canine Companions that were specific to the school setting, because there were a couple things I figured we might have questions on here. They work directly with vulnerable clientele, which would be students, for a minimum of 20 hours a week. So the question might be, what do they do for the rest of the time? Because they're not on duty the entire time. And so when the dog is not working with the facilitator handler, they would be placed in a kennel at the site. And they also, Canine Companions does require that they have the support and approval from their employer for the use of a facility dog. So at this time, they require a letter of support, which has been the site principal. And then they require that to utilize the task, the facility dog is trained to encourage and support clients or our students. So on the next slide, we did a little research and Canine Companion provided us with some information. We currently have 5 facility dogs in the district. They're at California Avenue Preschool, the Leadership Academy, Honolulu, Vista, Rancho Buena Vista High School. And I also asked what other facility dogs are at school districts in San Diego County. There are 2 other districts that have 1 each, Carlsbad, Del Mar. We did reach out to both to find out kind of how they utilize the facility dogs. Del Mar did not respond. Carlsbad was unaware of the facility dog. So we weren't able to get that much information there. I also asked how many, these are facilities outside of San Diego County. They could be anything, medical facilities. I don't know the breakdown of that, but there are 19 in Central and Southern California. Okay. So service dogs, they're partnered, of course, with an adult that has a physical disability or, a medical condition that would require support. And so their eligibility requirements are here. I won't read all of them, pretty basic step for, in order to be and that should say service dog from the companions. All right, you read through something so many times and you still, you can go ahead and go to the next. Oh, there you go. So now this is information that you might not know, but HR, when we have a service dog for medical reasons, we receive a request for an employee. That is typically a medical note or a request, but we do have to go through a medical accommodations meeting with them. We send out notifications to staff and students regarding that there's a potential animal coming on campus, and that families and students are able to notify us if there's any allergies or fears of animals. And then we work to accommodate the employee's service animal within the position they hold. It's important to note
that sometimes we are not able to accommodate an employee in their position. So at that point, we try to work with them to find a different position or something else they can do with the district. Sometimes it could be a transfer to a different site if there's some allergies that are noted in there. So it means that a service animal can be denied based on a medical accommodation that can't be accommodated. At this time, we have not needed to do that, and we do have 2 service animals at the school. Therapy dogs. So go back one real quick. So sorry. I'll be quick on this one. A therapy dog, this is where they're not an employee of the district, but they are working with a volunteer or an employee of another organization. They come in. Canine Companions actually has a pilot program that they're working on. These are their requirements. Note it's a retired, definitely retired breeders or retired service or facility dogs. And then at the bottom, just note that the volunteer with their setting of choice or incorporate the therapy dog in their eligible professional work for a minimum of 24 hours per year. So that's typically the therapy dogs through Canine Companions. We do have a therapy dog in Vista Unified, and that is through Pet Encounter Therapy Manager Helen Woodward Animal Center. So we reached out to that manager and she gave us a lot of information. They provide a free service to MGM at this time. 2 to 3 therapy dogs come to each visit. They also have other animals, reptiles, because of course, not always dogs, it's other animals. And the goal is to visit every classroom during second period at that time. I did get some information about a past therapy dog from Helen Woodward, and that was at RBV from 2013 to 15. And that was a paid service. They did pay for that. And there was a crew on campus twice a month, and they were 2 to 4 dogs with occasional visits from the animals and the reptiles. And they interacted, she said, with a small group of students or students from special ed or that were considered at risk. And they were all screened by the staff from the surveys, just like the policies that we have now. So I thought that was kind of fun history. I didn't know that. So our options for therapy dogs, I said, well, therapy dogs, what would be options for a school site? So there are potential therapy dog programs all listed here. Of course, there's Pet Encounter Therapy. She did say there's a waiting list at this time, but if I can, I will put our name on that waiting list. And maybe the free services like MGM has, but there's also, and I put the links on here. There's Pet Partners, Love on a Leash, Therapy Dogs International, and also Canine Companions has a therapy dog pilot program. All right. So the current procedures for the district working with our assistance dogs at this time, we have 3. Unfortunately, the current facility dogs on campus, we were not aware of. They didn't go through that typical process of the survey because they would have received a letter of support from the site principal or a supervisor at the site. And so, but we've worked since then to gather liability information, provide the surveys to the families. That will continue each year. What's very important to note here, and I underlined it in the second paragraph, current service facility and therapy dogs that are already at school will remain and continue to remain. So, and are required to do the same thing, have liability insurance and will conduct the surveys, and they'll work with HR. HR works specifically with the staff, and the site would work with students. And then we get the report and then we try to work through that. With the facility dogs, we haven't gone through the same process as a service dog because we didn't have that knowledge of those. We have the knowledge of the service animals. So that's the current status.
All right, so we'll start with Trustee Kelly on questions or comments.
Madam President, do you have any reports?
You know what, I actually allowed the gentleman to talk earlier because it was embedded.
Just make sure.
Yeah, it's been one of those nights.
Reminder that we did have one public comment.
Yeah.
That people might be connecting the dots now.
Right.
Sounds familiar. So my question, feedback request, would be that we explore the cost of allowing facility dogs, the cost in terms of man hours for conducting, I believe, annual surveys. The fact that we have had them successfully for a long period of time by accident, to me, illustrates the benefits that they provide, and I'd like to explore the possibility of amending our board policy to allow facility dogs, but I think we have to be mindful of, you know, the costs and any unintended consequences before we make a decision.
Thank you. Trustee Smith? Any comments, questions? Very well. Trustee Vargas?
Yeah, on the Helen Woodward Animal Shelter, I got to visit the site earlier this month, so they're a great partner, and with that, you know, I know that we have one partnership right now with General Murray. And so there's the opportunity to have an educational component, but they also have a therapy dog component, and so if there's opportunity to expand that, I would definitely be supportive of that. That they, you know, part of this whole social emotional pathways, not sure where we are with ELO funds, but if like there's a nexus there, you know, an opportunity to explore.
Trustee Morocco?
I am so in favor of facility dogs. You know, as you know, I've been touring all the sites, and actually there is a facility dog at Roosevelt and Maryland. They split him. He goes half and half. So there is one dog there that goes between both. So I think
give you a little more information.
okay. So I think what I've asked, as you know, I've been kind of like for Rachel, I've been much more about this. But my understanding is that there really isn't costs involved to the district. I've asked that question, and the answer I got was that there isn't really no costs involved. I believe what the issue is that we don't have a board policy for facility dogs. So that would be where I would say we need to look at doing a board policy that will allow facility dogs, that we can have a process so the district has direction on how to approve these very, very valuable members. And just a couple of stories, at the Leadership Academy, Kim, the principal there, Kim Morton, gave me a video. She showed me a video of this little girl. This little girl was she was TK or kindergarten, Down syndrome, adorable, cutest little girl you've ever seen. And this video is her with their facility dog name is Coco. And this little girl would do anything to be around Coco, anything for Coco. So they have a vest for Coco that has all these, you know, fine motor skills, you know, buttoning buttons and, you know, kind of like the little rivets for like tying your lacing up your shoes and zipping and all these things that a child needs to know to dress themselves. And this is a little girl with Down syndrome who probably has some challenges with her fine motor skills. And she's learning these skills. These are life altering skills. She's learning to dress herself sooner rather than later and it's all because she's motivated by the dog. And I mean, that just, when you talk about benefiting children, that's right there, our most vulnerable. And then I was at Roosevelt, that's why I know that there's a dog there, because they have a picture of him up in their lobby. And while I was waiting there, I noticed, and I said, oh, you have a facility dog. And there was a young man, a student, sitting in the waiting room behind me. And he says, oh, I love that dog. And I said, you do? What do you love about that dog? He said, I love to pet that dog. It makes me feel calm. So that's and I don't know that he was a student with special needs or not, but I do know that if you're in middle school and you've got something that will make students feel calm, I think that's a good thing. And so I just really, really, really think that this is a program that's so valuable that we should be looking for ways to expand it, not restrict it. So that's what I have to say. So.
Can I clarify the dog?
Yeah.
So it is an RV, so it used to be a psychologist that was assigned to Roosevelt. She's now a district special education psychologist who is housed out of RVB, but she travels. So she used to be at Roosevelt, it's the same dog.
Okay.
Now she's housed at RVB, but she still goes and visits those. So she's actually visiting multiple sites as the psychologist. So that's why there's multiple now, but used to be Roosevelt, now RVB, but she goes all around the district.
It's just a wonderful program, and I can't, as Jeremy Nolan was talking about at Batsy, it's that I can't even imagine. They have 2 at Cal Ave, and they're so valuable. I mean, the dog principal there, and she was like, oh, these dogs are so valuable. I can't even imagine why we would not have one at Batsy, because that's like, just seems very, very normal. I mean, like very natural. But anyway, so I just, that would be my thing is, I would say let's come up with a board policy for this. This is a wonderful program. Let's try to expand it, not contract it, so.
Just to clarify, because I thought, I understood you to say that some of this does cost money. Would cost the district money?
So a facility dog, all the costs go through the handler. But I think what trustee Alvarado was saying was going through kind of the staff costs of conducting surveys.
Trustee Kelly.
Sorry, Kelly. Yes,
It's okay,
because
Kelly.
with multiple dog, I mean, it takes staff to do all the surveys and to kind of manage.
Actually, to have them here and things like that,
Mhm.
it doesn't cost the district.
No. mm-mm. No.
Thank you.
So I agree that, we need to look at the big picture because we haven't seen, because the things have kind of happened without the knowledge of this district office with these dogs being brought on campus. And it's important to look at, all the implications or consequences, good, bad, or indifferent, if any, before any decision is made on, adding to the board policy, amending it. So that's what I would say. So I have to see the feedback, we all kind of went from different directions, or do we have consensus on something? Oh. I recall that. He went.
Yes,
he did.
But we, maybe now, the question of like, who's in favor of amending board policy might be a good one to get a read on.
Shouldn't we need to get information on the potential cost?
Yeah,
before
or who's in
amending?
favor of doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Doing that,
Yeah,
so.
and before you do that, let me add one more bit of information for the board to know. No one in the district office is opposed to dogs. We're all, by the way, dog lovers. We all have our own dogs. But the issue for us is that our charge by law is to follow board policy. And so currently our board policy doesn't have space for that. If you want to direct us to investigate the impacts and effects of revising the board policy for therapy dogs, this is what I'm hearing, we can bring that back to you. And if after you see that information, you then direct us to revise the board policy, we will go through that process and we'll do that. And we'll send it to legal and everything else. So that's absolutely achievable. The only reason we're having this conversation tonight is because we're bound by the current board policy. And at whatever point the board policy is adjusted, we will then implement that policy. And one last important information for our newer board members. Anytime the board revises a board policy, we have to develop what we call an administrative regulation. The administrative regulation is designed through the superintendent's office. And the purpose of the board policy regulation is the policy is general in scope. They're typically very short. And then the add and reg is specific because we have to make sure that our board policy follows all the laws and regulations in the state. And so that's where Rachel will come in, and she will have to write into the board policy and add and reg that shows us and ensures that we follow all the necessary policies and procedures in the state of California. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And there's OSHA regulations, there's HR regulations for staff members and other things. And we can bring all of that back to you. But what I'm hearing from the board right now is you're giving us direction to investigate more specifically the impacts and effects, inclusive of cost and other things of creating the board policy. We can absolutely do that for you.
Yeah, I think we have consensus on that.
Sound good?
Consensus, yeah, thumbs up. All right,
Excellent.
all right, moving on. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda, on eight F, no, 8E, maintenance and ground summer.
Almost there, almost there.
We just said animal.
Yeah.
We were out doing maintenance and ground. Letter E, maintenance and ground, summer project planning. Do you guys need a break, or is it just me that might need a break? Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Sorry, we're gonna take a 10-minute recess. Then maybe I can get my mind on. My mind, there we go.
Everything ready to go, Madam President? We are
All
live.
right, let's go. It is 9:24 and we have flights to Sacramento in the morning, so
Correct.
let's roll like donuts.
Correct. All right. President Alvarado, other members of the board, we will jump into this. The second to last presentation.
Right, so we are currently on 8E, maintenance and ground summer project planning, and the 18th month look ahead.
Excellent. So, Dr. Loescher is back by popular demand. And, what we asked Dr. Loescher to put together tonight for you was two elements. So before he takes over, the first element, the most important element is we are very well planned to have successful projects completed in the summer. This is important because you will have an action item later to approve, we hope, so that we can move forward with those projects. And Dr. Loescher will address that later this evening. And then we asked him to do a second component to the presentation today. We're not voting on the second component, but it's important. And that's a little bit further look ahead of future projects that we really would like to work on as well as it relates to our facilities. And you're all aware of some of the challenges that we have in front of us. So with that, Dr. Loescher, you want to take it away?
Thank you very much, Dr. Doyle. First of all, is it brought over what is our goal here in terms of the style that we are presenting to you, which is something that's different than what we've done in the past. And the goal here is that we have an ongoing dialogue and an ongoing project process of bringing things forward. So this one focuses on the summer, but this is not to say that things haven't been happening. And we'll talk about this in our definitions and timelines and give some examples of things that have happened this year due to eminent need. So we will look at that. The next part is to look at what is going to be sort of an outlook of what you can plan ahead to see. Now, just as a means of framing our discussion, what makes something a project? Well, actually, public contracting code tells us as a school district what makes something a project. And the definition is a bundle or a group of an activity that is at a threshold of 350 project hours or above. At that point, we cannot do it legally within the district. We have to contract out. So this is not to say that some items that we see on campuses are not being addressed. Those may be local things that we address. But these are the projects that we're seeing that need to be addressed. So let us jump in and take a look at some of our framing for this discussion. First of all, we generally have three overarching categories when we talk about projects. We talk about them as being a facilities program improvement, or a preventative maintenance, or a fire life safety issue. These have a relationship with each other. This is a journey that our facilities go on. Something can start off as a program or facilities improvement, but you have to maintain that facility. If you don't, you have to put it into the next cycle where you're trying to prevent the item from deteriorating through preventative maintenance. But if you can't do the preventative maintenance, there's a variety of reasons why that may happen, particularly during massive recessions. It then becomes a fire, life, and safety issue. Let me give an example. A gym with a roof that isn't maintained, the roof starts to leak. The leak comes down onto the floors of the gym. The floors become ruined. The bleachers become rusted. Maybe we could have taken care of this through preventative maintenance, but we didn't have the opportunity to do that. Now it's a fire, life, safety issue. And we have to do it inside of a project scope. So these have a relationship to each other. For our project types, we group them so that way we can have a general discussion. These are just in-house terms, okay? We talk about gutters and flooring and roof and plumber, sewer. I know that's one of our favorites to talk about, sewer systems. Grounds and landscaping, athletic fields and playgrounds, fire alarms, asphalt and concrete, fencing, painting of walls, water intrusion. I know another favorite for everybody, drainage and civil engineering, and general facilities improvements. Now, what we're talking about this evening has a specific scope of what we're looking at. That scope is in the fund called Fund 40. That's that certificate of participation that you all proactively pursue. So projects that are not being discussed or considered in here at all are Measure LL projects. Those are separate. We'll talk a bit about those here in the next presentation. The HVAC projects that are pending what's called the Cal Shape program. This is a state supplemental program where we are required to do an internal study, a specific study. We have to install specific specific alarms and devices and devices in every room so we can monitor what we use and how we use our HVAC systems. So that's all state mandated. Once we do that, we'll have reports that help with supplemental funding to address those issues. Intercom systems, IT is developing those plans now and is talking about how they're going to implement those new intercom systems, because those are now IT based. They're not hardwire based the way they used to be in terms of low voltage wiring. Those are all part of IT. And also something that the superintendent and I are particularly passionate about, water heaters. Which sounds silly, but a water heater and a water heater prevention program is one of the most costly things that if you don't deal with it, they explode, they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage because you weren't able to get ahead of it. So right now we're going through and we're doing an inventory of every single water heater and its current condition, its age, and when it should be replaced. So that way we're replacing water heaters. So we're not talking about water heaters tonight. That program's under development. For planning and implementation timelines, to explain what we're talking about tonight, but how we handle these, because working with facilities and planning and the team, we had to develop a framework of how we interact with each other and how we prioritize and triage projects. Now, if we all had unlimited funds, there's a lot of things we would do. That's clear. We do a lot of things for facilities, for instruction, for our district, but we don't. So we have to triage and have to order things. So the highest level is what we call immediate projects. Immediate projects represent fire, life, and safety right now. The factors are urgent needs and what we can contract right now. For example, we had a gym that the roof was leaking so bad that the roof was at a point where it could collapse. You have to deal with that right now. There's no other choice. In terms of what we're talking about this evening, we're talking about near-term projects, 4 to 6 months out. These factors are contracting, capacity, and site schedule. We are an educational institution. Our site schedules are driving what we're doing so we can serve our students. So this is in a planning stage for near term. Midterm, 7 to 10 months out projects. We are working on all those those midterm plans. The factors are the complexity of the project. I did use abbreviated terms here and I apologize, so I'm going to spell them out, that they will require architects and engineers to be involved. These are more complex. A capacity of what we can plan and then really the efficacy grouping. What does that mean? How can we group them together for the best amount of use of our dollars? Because if we can group projects in a certain way, if they can wait a little longer, we can group them differently. We can contract differently and we can get a better return for what we invest in fixing items. Long-term projects for what we're talking about now shifts in terms of scope. We're talking about 11 to 24 month or more long projects. Again, complex factors. The complexity of the projects, it usually requires the Division of State Architects or DSA to approve the plans for those projects. And that's changing rapidly. We'll cover that at the end. Projects that used to not take DSA, now take DSA. Projects that used to fall outside of the scope of the Americans with Disabilities Act now will fall in the scope of the Americans Disabilities Act. And that will radically change some things that we come to you with projects that maybe 5 years ago would cost $1 million, that now will cost $5 million because you have to look at them completely differently from an equity and access standpoint. The unknown factors impacting all of these are the labor, supply chain, and unforeseen conditions. Labor, who's available. We have a national labor shortage, so we have to oftentimes understand that we don't have somebody available to do things immediately. For example, we have a number of plumbing projects we would love to do. There's a national regional shortage of plumbers. So those have to be scoped out. Supply chain, we have things that we would love to be able to install that we don't have. That we were just accustomed to being able to get these things on these systems and they're not available. And unforeseen conditions are our favorite, which is you think you're going to do one project, you pop up the floor, you look down, and what you thought would be there is not there. There's something very different, and that changes the scope of the project. So that sort of frames. So for project summer 2023, what we want to share with you is first, throughout this school year, and even before, you've been approving projects for the summer. So there are already approved projects. They're already in the works of being designed and we're reaching out for contracting. Those include the gutter replacements and roof work over at Foothill Oaks Elementary, Rancho Minerva Middle School's building envelope. That needs to be addressed. It really has some work that has to be done. Vista High School building and the child nutrition services facility needs to be addressed. That also touches the music room. And that's a great example of a project that had to change in scope due to some feedback from the Division of State Architects. But those are already approved. So we want you to know those are still happening, but they're approved. What we're suggesting this evening is based upon data analysis, capacity scope, what we're seeing in the contracting field and all the variety of factors. We believe that for this summer, we should engage in about 6.3, 6.4 million in additional projects for this summer. And that would all be from Fund 40. This breaks out in the following ways, just in terms of an overview. For gutters, the general estimate would be about $175,000 addition. What's the difference? Because you hear different terms. What's the difference between a general estimate and a rough order of magnitude? Who's specifying? A rough order of magnitude is a item we can only use when we have a licensed architect that's working on that, an engineer. A general estimate are from our own in-house estimators. It's just one, these are two different legal terms. So that is our best estimate at this time. For flooring, we're looking at about $1 million in new flooring that would need to be replaced. For roofing, general estimate is about $3.5 million in roofing for this summer. For painting, close to $600,000. Asphalt, general estimate is about $600,000. And for grounds, this is an area where we've been wildly successful on a project, but you have to live with the implications of that. And I'll describe that briefly. But for grounds, we're looking at about $500,000 of work to be done. And that's because Dr. Doyle and I came to an agreement, which is we're pacifists, but we really don't like gophers. And that they ruin our fields and the gophers have to go. Our gophers are leaving. But that means the tenants of the tunnels no longer upkeep those tunnels. So the fields are starting to sink and collapse. That's a normal thing that happens when you get rid of the gophers. They're not digging new holes, but you're starting to see that. So we need $500,000 to address that as we become more successful with our what do I tell my youngest daughter? Our gopher remediation and movement program.
And our kids will be able to play soccer without stepping into the holes.
That's true. That will be a good thing. So what does that look like in terms of schools that would be touched? For gutters, it would be adult education, Metro Granbury, Rancho Buena Vista, Lake, Madison, Breeze Hill, and the Literacy Center would be where the gutters are done in addition to Foothill Oak. Again, that's already approved. For flooring, Breeze Hill, Lake, Rancho Buena Vista, the Leadership Academy, Casita, Cal Ave, and Roosevelt would be up for flooring. That's, again, in addition to what has been done. For example, we did the Beaumont MPR, we did all of the flooring, and that was an immediate need. That's where that was taken care of. It didn't disappear off the radar. For roofing, we would be looking at the largest scope. These are insured roofs that once we do them, when there is a leak, we pick up the phone call and they have to come out and make it right for the next 30 years. So these are not short-term solutions. For roofing, we're looking at Vista High, Rancho Buena Vista High, Monta Vista, Vista Magnet, the CNS warehouse, Beaumont, Hanalei, and the Vista Innovation Center. These are all areas that have eminent needs for roofs that we can take care of.
So you said insured, you mean they would be if we approve it?
If you
They
approved
would
it.
be, they're not insured now.
They're not insured now. Actually, for the roofs that we have they're going to a company called Garland, those roofs are insured to a certain point. All of these schools are past their life cycle.
Right.
The insurance period came and went, correct. And looking ahead for painting, we're looking at Mission Vista, Rancho Minerva, warehouse, and the operational service buildings that require painting. Again, these are things that our painters can't cover. We don't want to put out the perception that our painters aren't out touching up paint and working on items. They're working in addition to this. So maintenance is working on top of this on a variety of items. For asphalt, we're looking at additional work at Beaumont and Mission Vista. And for grounds, the schools that are being looked at, are Foothill, Oak, Madison, Monte Vista, Mission Vista, Rancho Buena Vista, Lower Vista, and Vista Magnet Middle School. All of which we're seeing again, a wildly successful Gopher program with consequences to our fields. Yes, sir.
The Rancho, Buena Vista Lower Field, where is that?
So if we tiered out the Rancho Buena Vista school field, you have on the highest side, you're going to have the football field. Sorry, I do pictures in my head. So you have up ahead the stadium, and then you have a small step down into the tennis courts. From there, you have a step down into the baseball field, then you have a step down into the softball field. Then you have an additional step down next to the softball field, then a huge runoff, and what's called the lower field. The lower field actually used to be a joint use field with the city. It's now our field again. So we need to address several of those items on the lowest field.
Okay.
It's the
So it's
field
kind of like
closest to
way
Melrose.
out there by
It's the
the.
field closest to Melrose.
Correct. But that would be the listing of all of the projects that we put for your consideration this evening.
And for those prices, where are you getting those estimates?
So we work with a variety of sources, including reaching out to contractors and gauging with other districts what their costs per square footage has been for that work in that area. So for example, if we look at grounds and we look at the possibility of the fields that are listed, we do is we calculate the total number of acres. And then there's a cost per acre that's generally associated with the type of work. So there's one sort of work that would take place at some sites. So you have to dig out and refill and then compact the field. And that level of compaction on a field differs based upon whether it's an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school. A high school athletic field would be at the highest standard and would cost roughly 2 to 3 times the amount as an elementary school field to achieve it. So we have rough calculations that we work in that way.
And they're not actual numbers, like,
No.
there could be granted, which could double the amount or triple the amount of a field.
We would have to come back to you if we were in excess of over 5 to 10% on any given area. We would need to come back to you. What we do is we do gauge check. And what we do is we spot check. We take a project, for example, the lower field of RBV. We call 3 contractors and say, can you give a general estimate to make sure we're within a range that's set
And is that 5 to 10% per the overall or per project per site?
per project per site?
So you just didn't find these numbers on the back of the napkin?
No. They may have been calculated at one point.
Some of these days.
So, like when we're talking about grounds, did you get did they bid out all of those projects as a aggregate or
No bid has taken place or would take place until the board approves or,
estimate?
yeah, these are general estimates.
That's actually the item you have on your agenda tonight.
That's
You
an action
can't take
item.
that step until you give us the green light to do it.
Okay, and then one more question about grounds. Are you replacing those? Are you replacing the sod or are you doing like a turf?
These are all for sod fields they're being looked at this time. When we look ahead to other items, there you'll see a differentiation between sod fields and synthetic fields. And there are some changes there for code requirements per se of the state.
Okay.
All right, so
We're almost finished.
we're almost finished.
We're on our way. Now, moving on to midterm.
Yeah, this is just a preview of looking midterm, 7 to 10 months out and long-term 11 to 24 months out, just so you can be aware of what you can expect to see. You're going to start to see estimates and some planning front loading that we asked for the board to consider and approve with our architect, because projects of certain sizes require an architect even for us to get our head around what they would be accurately cost. And we're going to give a couple of examples in here. So what we're looking at and talking about next is just a preview of some of what is still on the radar, but looks 7 all the way out to 2 years out for implementation timeline. So we do again have projects that are already approved that are within this window on the next slide. Currently approved are the asphalts at Mission Meadows, Rancho Minerva's site-wide asphalt, grounds and athletic fields improvements at Vista High baseball backstop. That's to make sure that foul balls don't strike students or spectators. Water intrusion civil at Belmont was already approved. Roofing at Vista Magnet has already been approved. These are already in the planning cycle, working with DSA, so this is already approved by the board, but there's not for the summer. It will be longer term, and we'll come back to you with those projects.
You're gonna have to, asphalt and condition that with Rancho Minerva. Just note that those two projects are fairly large projects in scope because they have so many issues with them. So they're not, it's just a simple resurfacing. You may want to tell them a little bit about that.
So, let's do the following. So this is my district ID badge. And if I'm talking about Mission Meadows, we have a temporary fix in place that took place under an immediate need. But when we measured the cracks that were emerging, two of the cracks were larger in width than my district ID. That meant we had to bring in a civil engineer, and what's happening at actually both Rancho Minerva and Mission Meadows is about halfway through, the grounds are pulling apart and it's pulling the playground surfaces apart. So it's under asphalt concrete, but these are massive projects that would require us removing, resurfacing up entirely, re-outlining the entire play structure, and then redoing all things. This is not as simple as a slurry and seal or ripping up the asphalt quickly and laying down a new coat. That's why they require a longer amount of time.
Is that something that would be done next summer, not this summer, next summer?
Those are still both slated for next summer.
So do we have a, because I know when we first started prior, Dr. Rocher, we went to the asphalt and kind of hooked on the asphalt right here, and we realized we weren't slurrying them.
Yes.
Or will we have like an ongoing schedule, like, okay, these schools need to have that done this going on, okay? thank
So
you.
for everything that we're putting in place, and this is the part that overlaps, that we'll have in a facilities meeting that gets incredibly complex. This all interacts with the long-range facility master plan. And what it lays out is says, for every building, every structure, everything that we've built, whether it be the asphalt or any concrete structure, any building, there is a cycle of life to that. And in order to maximize the cycle of life, you need to engage in these activities. Now, if you don't engage in these activities, there may not be a legal requirement. But something that is designed to take, let's say, 30 years to reach its end of life, like a roof, may only last 20, and the insurance won't cover that because you didn't do your part to maintain it. Or if we're talking about an asphalt, something that you're to slurry coat every 5 to 6 years, if you don't slurry coat it, there's no legal requirement to slurry coat it. But now, instead of slurry coating it every 5, 10, 15 years, on year 10 to 12, you're going to end up having to pay 5 times as much as the slurry coat to completely remove it and relay it out. And is there a legal requirement to do that? No, that's where risk management gets involved and says the risk of danger is too high for people to be walking over this. So that is the cycle that has to be put in. So these are, again, sample additional projects. This is not a comprehensive listing. The goal was not to overload us. We can do that on a facilities meeting in time. But for the summer projects, has to be at a regular meeting. For these, just to give you a outlook, again, asphalt slurry, the reseals that you're talking about right now, trustee. Painting, various exterior trims on a massive scale. Our trims are generally colors. Colors fade in our beautiful Southern California sun, which we hope to see again soon. Playgrounds, this is going to be an example of things have changed. Playgrounds are now the purview of the Division of State Architects and ADA requirements. This is going to be a massive change for what we do. So we need to make sure that we have play structures that meet all of those requirements, including meeting our TKK requirements and a variety of other factors. So those now become longer range projects. We actually had a few that we wanted to do this summer, but we have to look out now and know that we have to take it through that cycle. For fumigation, I know a topic not listed. We've got the mites, and we got to take care of some facilities before they're completely at a condition where we can't deal with those. So the Administrative Service Center, welcome, and I'm sorry you have termites in your office, Dr. Austin. So They're the window structure. But in this facility, we have termites that need to be addressed, that has to be addressed. So for fencing, we need to talk about raising the height of our fences to 8 to 10 feet. For security reasons, that you generally be done in a process of starting with a front facing of the school and then moving to additional. And then athletic grounds, we need to front load the information. These also have become the purview of DSA and have to meet American with Disability requirements. So the existing synthetic fields we have at RBV and Vista High, those have reached end of life. We are now in a process of having to do this, but it's not just end of life. The fields can't be resurfaced. That's because the tracks have been resurfaced a number of times. Every time you resurface, the track gets a little higher. And now it's past ADA requirements. The whole track and the entire field has got to be removed. The drainage systems that we may have thought were adequate 10 to 15 years ago have not kept up and are not adequate, which means we have to repair the damage and put in the new drainage facilities. So you're going to see items, and again, I deliver news, good, bad, or ugly. Items that may have cost $1 million when talked about a year or two ago are going to come back at $4.5 to $5.5 million worth of work. That is factually what's going to come back our way. But that also will involve looking at the grounds at additional sites that we anticipate more gopher damage on, including Casita, Lake, Vita, and General Murphy. So those are all there as something that we put forward to you for your consideration.
I do have to step in on this one item. While the fields at our two high schools, RBV, this line, are gonna be much more expensive than we anticipated. When they're done right, they'll last a lot longer and there'll be much greater level of pride of ownership. So the good news is, and it's similar to the two softball fields that we had built, they are amazing facilities for our athletes. And those facilities will be there for a very long time because they were built extremely strong. So while it is going to be way more expensive, it's going to be a rock solid piece of improvement for our community that they'll use forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you, Sean, so
Thank you.
much. We appreciate it. Again, you'll have an item that will come up later on in the agenda. Any feedback for him about the items that we went over before we move on?
Two items, first one is, so we're using Title 40 funds. How much, Fund 40, if we, fully approve these, what would be left on this fund, and then how much do we get per year on this?
So, yeah, I think we would research that, come back to you with exact numbers. Fund 40 is not a title fund. It is a certificate of participation. So it's a front loading of funding that it would have been due to us over time. But we understand that if we get all the funds now, we have a higher level of purchasing power to replace, right? So this should take us close to the 50%. We are required by law by next summer to spend at least 80% of the funds.
We will get you that.
Yeah.
In the right letter.
The second is around contracts. So is this, we're doing RFPs, and this is any contractor can bid, or is this through a pool? And then we approve the pool for Measure LL, but it is different.
This is not a contractor pool. This is done through what's called the Public Works Project. So it does have requirements for prevailing wage, for highly skilled labor, and all of those public contracting requirements. But it is not through the pool because these generally are not projects that are of a mass scale. Now, when we come back to some of the larger projects, for example, synthetic fields and others, those fall outside of a scope generally of public works because they've gone over a threshold. And we then do an RFP for those items, and we can choose to establish a separate contractor pool, or we can do an RFP by project at that time.
You probably select the lowest bidder, but do we still have the same criteria as the pool?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, I mean, same feedback from last time, making sure that we aligned our values for our contractors that are doing work with the district. So
absolutely, and we seek local contractors and all of the additional factors that we've talked about.
So just to follow up on his question, do we have to take the lowest bidder?
It's a process called lowest qualified bid.
Okay.
Okay, so lowest bid would be we've got, what we're gonna use you as our example. You are a general contractor with 30 years experience that has demonstrated the ability to do this work over time. You are considered, you go through a process, you're a qualified bidder. I don't do this, don't have a proven track record, and I would then bid against you, but if I bid well under the threshold because I don't have bid experience, I don't get that. I have to become a qualified bidder first, that's accepted by the system, and then I can bid on the project.
Trustee Kelly, have any questions on this?
No, thank you. You've answered all my questions.
Trustee Morocco?
I'm good.
All right, so thank you so much for that presentation.
Almost done.
The last committee report to the board is 8F, Measure LL Facility Bond Micro Workshop.
All right, Grace, thank you for your patience. This is gonna be quick. Let's get moving.
Ready?
It's too cold.
Yeah.
Despite popular belief, Grace is from New York City, despite how she's dressing. And she is here for our micro workshop. These are action items later on.
Yes.
We hope we're finding this format effective where we send information in other formats, but we focus only on this particular item. And we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, esteemed board members. Dr. Doyle. I will start. The next slide is basically bringing us up to date on the financials that are spent thus far. And right now, if you go to the commitment, which is the second box with the letter, all the numbers compressed, right? So the commitments section, purchase orders, so in terms of the numbers that changed from last month, previous month, you really see the changes of the commitments and then the actuals that are actually paid out. So that's really where things have been spent and then what's remaining. So those are the two columns that really changed. If you don't have any other questions, then I'll just keep going to the next. Okay, so for Bovier, and you know, obviously we live in the state of California and America, United States. We are very conscious about the environment. And so one of the agencies that we have to go through is the California Environmental Quality Act. And this is making sure that when you are building facilities, the school district is responsible to answer some things. And what is it? The community, right? Whether they're building any projects that are going to impact the community at large. And so this is an agency that basically has regulations and stipulations that have to go through to ensure that whatever project that you're planning, you've done your due diligence to make sure that you're not going to negatively impact the community. Or if you are going to impact, you'd have to provide a report and a service, and you hire a consultant to do that for you. And it's important to do it at the very beginning because the designers, our architects that we hire, are architects and our consulting engineers, and even during construction, because you have to understand what you're building. And if you are going to be impacting the environment, the architect will have to design for it within the buildings or the site, right? Measures to make sure that, for example, it's raining like crazy, right? And the rain that hits on the construction site needs to be maintained within the construction. It cannot, all that dirty water from the mud cannot go out onto the street. So hence, with the rains that have been happening, what you've been seeing at our active construction sites, more obviously at Vista High, because it's closer to Bovier, we need to make sure that we're cleaning any of the mud. So when the concrete trucks came in and came around, I don't know if you noticed or if you drove by at a certain time, but the contractor on that project had a street sweeper come to make sure that they cleaned all the roads, to make sure all the debris was not leaving the site and dirtying our water system, right? So that's just an example. So here on Bovier, because it's a pre-existing school campus, the good thing for this one is that this project, our architect already had a SQL consultant preliminarily take a look at it to see how much of a report and the size of the report that will need to be done for this project. And thank goodness, because this is a pre-existing school already, a pre-built site, you're not going to have a report done or monitoring services for American Indian archaeology, because there was nothing that was discovered as an ancient burial ground, right? That's just an example. Plus, there's no existing protected species or of
animal, birds, whatever, on the existing site. That's another, that is a potential. If it was new virgin land, then you would have had to go through that and hire all that. So that's where it goes to a notice of exemption, which is good, because then the only thing that we really will need to do is a traffic report. And the reason why you want to do a traffic report is for several reasons, is in the initial design and also from the observation, we know that the safety of the students is extremely critical. That's a really main fast thoroughfare, which really shouldn't be fast, but. And the city, we met with the city on the 31st of January, and they also had requested a traffic report to be done. Because there could be potential stop measures, gaps that can be put in place in order to keep the students safer. And so as an example, at Vista High, you have, I call it like the double traffic light within a short distance. And that helps to slow traffic down, right? That's a higher level of adding safety, which is a traffic light, right? You have stop signs. That's usually the least intrusive. Then you have an actual traffic light. So, you know, but this is just a report that will help give recommendations on what you could do on the new design. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so basically, the CEQA consultant would be under our architect. And so what we're requesting is the 10,816, which is a modification for the this consultant to be under the architect, because in that way, the architect can help manage and also make sure that they immediately know what they have to account for in the design. And so this is the action item that we're requesting to increase our architect's contract amount to pay for this consultant.
Thanks, Grace. Any feedback or comments on that? This will be an action item coming up there.
Tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 15B.
So I do have a question. So all we're approving is just the $10,000 then?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion in the form listed below. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, the staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. The superintendent and staff recommend approval of all consent calendar items. Now, I know we were going to remove 11B.
Already has been.
Okay.
Okay, and I need 14.
Only a portion has been removed.
One item, one of the items, B is going through without E15.
Okay, so we'll vote on that one then.
Okay, and then I need 14G pulled.
All right, so we're going to pull 14G. All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar minus 14G?
So moved. Second.
Right. It's moved by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Vargas. All in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have 14G, which is ratify and approve purchase orders. Trustee Morocco, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I just need to set up, it's one of those ones so that we just avoid any semblance of impropriety, because I own stock in one share of Amazon stock, so I'm going to, I will.
Have we talked to our council about this?
I don't have to, I can vote on it, it's not a problem, but I just don't even want the appearance of impropriety,
Okay.
so I will,
You can just abstain.
that's what I'm gonna do, abstain.
You don't know what I'm saying, because you don't have to recuse yourself from the room.
Right, I
You just
know.
abstain.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so all in favor of approving 14G, say aye. Aye.
There's been a motion.
Oh. Point well taken.
I make a motion to approve, item 14G.
Okay, moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? A motion carries for
14G.
4 in favor, 1 abstention.
4 in favor to approve 14G, 1 abstention.
Alvarado, I'm so sorry, who seconded that?
That was trustee Vargas.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is 15A to approve the MOU between Vista Unified School District and Vista Teachers Association regarding transitional kindergarten expansion.
Okay.
All right.
The 11.
That was already
Modified
pulled
at the beginning.
at the
Okay,
beginning.
gotcha.
All right, so this item is an MOU between the district and VTA regarding the expansion of TK as we are expanding to meet the state requirements. We also need to ensure that all of our teachers have the state requirements met for their credential by August of 2023. And so this is an incentive to kind of draw in some TK teachers. There are two pathways that they can take. One would be kind of an internal certification process. We're calling it a micro credential. If they do that option, they would actually, once they complete it, they're state certified, and they would also receive a $2,000 stipend for completing that. Option one actually talks about going and taking some ECE units at a community college. They would get reimbursed and receive the $2,000. So this is a way to recruit TK teachers to meet that expansion.
All right,
Move to approve.
Second.
moved by trustee Vargas, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further
I have
discussion?
a question.
Mhm.
I guess I didn't move this little section. Regular multi-subjects teaching credential.
Multiple
plus the
subject.
CE.
So
credit.
anybody with a multiple subject credential is eligible to go through this process. We have some employees that do have ECE units enough, or they've been grandfathered in because there's a grandfather clause. But and we have lots of teachers retiring, and so this is to build that TK pool.
So it's like, so my credential originally was multi-subjects with a concentration in early childhood.
I would have to actually look at your transcripts to see if those classes actually match the classes that are required for TK.
Okay, so,
But most likely, it probably does.
okay, so it's not like we're saying they do have to do above and beyond a regular credential, pretty much.
Yes,
Okay,
it's 24 ECE units, 24 units at a community college level.
okay.
Or option two, which is really
Which
great.
you take all the certification pathways within our district with our professional development, which is the popular option right now.
I would think so.
Mhm.
That's a
And then they
win-win.
get $2,000 for doing
And
that.
they get $2,000 for doing it, and they will get paid hourly for the workshops and the professional development that they take part in.
And that's for all TK teachers.
For any multiple subject teacher that is certified during this expansion time to be a TK teacher.
Any further discussions or questions? All right, all in favor of approving 15A? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda is 15B, approved contract modification number 3 for architectural services to include a sequence study on the Bovier Elementary School full campus update.
So moved.
Okay, hold on one second. I think Amy's been just dying to talk to you tonight.
Okay.
Maybe, we are mindful of the time, Amy, but I think you should address some of the questions that happened earlier. Associated with the summer.
Yeah, so I can include the answers to Fund 40 on item C. So for item B, just quickly, as Grace just reviewed, this is a modification to our architect contract for our Bobier project. Because we're essentially rescoping the entire campus, we do have to go through that environmental study. And so this amendment would be to add that study to the architect's contract.
And they voted on that, so we can move on.
No, we
You
motioned.
motioned.
I made a motion. I don't think it was seconded.
Okay, good. All right.
Second. And now we can have discussion. Trustee Smithfield,
I'm good on this one.
any further questions or discussion now that Amy is dying to talk to us about anything we need to know? All right, all in favor of approving 15B, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, 15C, authorize superintendent to award bids, contracts during the period from April 2023 through August 2023, and that was a presentation that
Yes.
Dr. Loescher gave to us.
Right, and this is the one related to our summer projects and bidding. So, and Amy, you heard, Board Member Vargas have a couple questions about that, so you can address those questions as well.
Okay, so to give an overview of the item first, so this is something that we do each year. Why this is different from our other projects that we normally go through a bidding process, bring to the board for approval, and then we execute with the contractor. This is different because we're going into the summer sprint. And historically, this item comes forward in March. And what we've learned, especially since COVID, is that contractors are being fully employed prior to March. And so this intent of bringing it in February is to get out to bid sooner, to get better pricing, and also to make sure that our contractors are ready to go for the first day of school ends. And so ideally, what happens if the board approves this request for approximately $6 million is that would then initiate the bidding process. First, we have to do site walks, invite contractors to come in, present the bids, and then do bid awards. And so why we're asking to give authority to execute the contracts prior to bringing to the board as a ratification is that in the event that these bids are completed and it's still a couple weeks out to the next board meeting, this enables us to approve the contract, and then it gives the contractor, because typically it can take up to a month before they get in their insurance, their bonds, get their labor scheduled. And so this way they'll be ready to go and lined up in June when school ends. And so it's just a way for us to accomplish more projects, because this is $6 million. Historically, you would have seen requests from $1 to $3 million. We're able to do $6 million because of those COP funds that we went out to market to get in the spring. And so to tag on to the COP funds, the questions that came up earlier. So as a reminder, we were successfully able to get $41 million of COP funds, certificate of participation. These dollars are guaranteed to be repaid by an ongoing revenue stream that we have through the redevelopment agencies, dissolution funds. So we receive approximately $2 to $4 million a year. As our assessed valuation property increases, these revenue payments increase each year. So we have to repay these COP bonds over 15 years. And so it was a way for us to get $41 million upfront, and then we repay them with the approximately $3 million we receive each year until they're completely paid off in 15 years. To date, we have approximately about $10 million of projects that have been approved. The largest one, as you remember, is the Vista High CNS kitchen and band room modernization. This is where we're also doing the Foothill Oak, the Rancho Minerva, and some other various projects. So prior to those COP funds, we did have $9 million in that Fund 40 account. And we do have to spend approximately 85% of the $41 million, which is about $35 million in 3 years. So $6 million in addition to the $10 million helps us with that $41 million target. But keep in mind, we still had $9 million in the bank before we did the COP. So there's approximately $50 million of available, and these funds can only be used on facilities. There's a lot of information really fast. I apologize.
There was one other question that Board Member Vargas asked, and that was, what is the relationship between the process of interviewing and selecting the bidding contractors and holding them accountable to working within the scope of our values and our commitments as a school district?
So there is a little bit different criteria because these are what's called hard bid contracts. So basically lowest bid. And so there's criteria that's in government regulations on how we can award these. When we have contracts like leaseback, we can introduce quality and price and other criteria into that. But because these are hard bid public work contracts, it's basically the lowest bid.
My understanding is that one of the reasons that while it shows $6 million, most of these projects are actually quite small because there's a whole bunch of projects
The ELF is not quite picking up the sound right now. Hello?
Item 15B, request for a waiver at Honolulu.
So this is, we've had to do a few emergency resolutions in the past. And so this particular case, this is the second time that we've had an extreme flood on campus and we've had to evacuate classrooms. And so as a result, because it's an emergency situation, by doing this resolution, it enabled us to go out and do the repairs quickly instead of waiting to go through the full formal bid process, which would have exacerbated the damages and locked those classrooms down even longer.
Thank you, Amy. We can hear you through the owl, but you can't hear us, so I think we're good.
Make a motion to approve.
Moved by trustee Vargas, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussions or questions?
We talked to the county about their part in this.
We did, as a matter of fact, come on up, Sean, but not only did we talk to the county was actually quite responsive. So it's good news, but I'll let Sean tell the story because his team actually made it happen. And I personally went out, I think I sent you guys a picture to check. So yeah, they in fact did follow up. Go ahead.
You know, so the county has followed up and we've requested a meeting with the county supervisor in addition to talk through this item. So we were working two avenues. One is to work through their channels. We've had requests in the past for the county to help. In this case, we asked for some clarification of their levels of help and we verified they sent 7 trucks out yesterday morning to go and clear the drain across from Honolulu. And in addition, we're asking for them to really to hold local contractors accountable. What we found and what we presented to them is our own team members. And I want to give full credit to Anthony Arias, our grounds manager, and his team that went out and literally looked like they were fishing in the Honolulu River. There was over 3.5 feet of water. that was fast moving that they went through to remove, and they took on the work because they weren't gonna let our school flood any further. So they took on the work that was there, but what they found was a large amount of construction silt. So as you heard Grace talking earlier about what should happen for preparing for those. A mile up the road, we noticed there's a lot of construction, and we're working with the county so that they can address that with the construction crew, because their SWIP or their storm water intervention prevention plans were not effective. I can't speak as to if they didn't do them or not. That's not my place. They weren't effective. The drain was clogged. In addition, we also added for this upcoming storm event this weekend, there's actually 6 people that will be on staff 24 hours a day, rotating from school site to school site. There's something called the golden hour, which is from the time a storm drain backs up to the time it will flood our school. There's only a 1-hour intervention window. Doesn't matter whether that happens at 11 p.m., 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. Hanalei was bad. It could have been worse. We were there within 90 minutes. If we had been there in 3 or 4 hours, it would have been worse. But this is the most appropriate step to take, is to make the emergency declaration. So that way we have that when we go and do the final meetings with the county.
All right. All in favor of approving 14D, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Was there a motion?
Yes, it was trustee Vargas and seconded by trustee Morales. You're trying to be me. That guy on the red side. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anything opposed? If the motion carries 5-0. And last on the discussion item, the 15E, voting for CSBA delegate assembly, and we have many people on the ballot, but trustee Vargas is one of them. So we can vote for 7. Yes, ma'am.
So, but I've only done throughout my life. When you have to vote for 7 people and you want your person on, you only vote for 1, and that would be for him. Unless we know other people on here that one of you guys really knows, and you're like, so-and-so's really good, like, we don't know them, we're just putting X's this way.
Well, I do know a lot of the other trustees, actually, very wonderful, hardworking trustees, but the will of this board will prevail. I mean, just because I know them doesn't mean I want to go against the will of the.
Well, I didn't want to say no to all of them if you guys know and have worked with them on several things. But my vote's for him.
What's your perspective, trustee Vargas, in terms of a?
I would defer to trustee Kelly, because she's been on CSP and so she knows who's doing the work.
Yeah, and I do know my fellow delegates, however, some of these names are new, so. I obviously, yes, vote for Cipriano Vargas. I think, the work I've done with Katrina Young, Kate Bishop, and Melissa Crowe has been really effective. They are all experienced delegates who I think would be coming up for their 2nd or 3rd term. And I'm not familiar with the others personally.
Just a fun fact, there are 3 Vista Unified graduates on this ballot, so Kate Bishop from Chula Vista, Melissa Crowe from Warner USD.
Well, there you go.
Who I mentioned was Katrina Young from San Diego. Yeah.
So, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with your
Me too.
recommendation. But I just don't want to put X's on people that none of us know.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily a problem, but I do want Cipriano to win, so that's, I'm kind of agree with that.
All right, well, I hear consensus on, of course, supporting our fellow trustee to join trustee Kelly, along with our 2 Vista High folks who know the needs of Vista because they grew up in our system. And then if you guys feel so inclined, Katrina Young, she's a North County trustee. And I do know her.
So if we could read those names out for
Yes,
our
ma'am.
records, because we have to submit this like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Due tomorrow.
Right, okay, so Kate Bishop from Chula Vista Elementary School District, Melissa Crow from Warner Springs, unit or unified, USD, okay, Warner USD. Katrina Young from San Diego Union High School District, and then trustee Vargas from our school district.
Christie,
All right.
Yes.
Is there a requirement for a signature?
Rena signed.
Okay, so we have to get
vote.
This is due tomorrow. so-
We need to vote on this. We need to vote. So, can I get a motion to, approve the 4 choices on the ballot? And a second, please?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Kelly for Ms. Bishop, Ms. Crow, Mr. Vargas, and Ms. Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. And now we have time for questions, I believe. We have no more folks who want to talk. All right, 17A, request for future board agenda item or other business.
Could we have a discussion about the lifeguards at, the lifeguard situation in the county for the pools that we have?
Can we do that?
We can do that in a 2x2 first.
Yeah.
If we're trying to keep our meetings short and concise, and there's so many action items and committee reports that we have to have on there, so I'd like an overview 2x2 with what we do, comparing and contrasting what other districts do. Is that done?
Yeah, and then if we need to do this in this venue, we can.
Right, but we gotta think about how we can be more efficient, and I feel like we're doing well.
Doing really well.
I do feel like we're doing well, but we also have to be,
10:30.
yeah, we have to be, very mindful of it as we look at our agendas, okay? So we'll do a 2x2 so that everybody has the same information. We can compare and contrast. Anyone else for request?
Other board meeting for something else I want to say.
Future agenda, other business?
Is Amy still here?
Amy's on, I believe. Amy, are you still
Where are
here?
you, Amy?
I'm still here.
Congratulate her.
See, there goes the owl. It's the owl. It's the owl. It immediately went quiet as soon as I unmuted and started talking.
Congratulations, Amy. I'm just congratulating you on your recognition, your award from the county for what, admin of the year?
Yes.
Yes, CBO of the year for AXA. It means I'm a really good bean counter.
We actually have that announcement going out in the community update as well, because we have a couple other winners.
Yeah, I do
Yes,
too.
yes.
But anyway, I wanted to recognize you, although there's nobody here, sorry.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Amy.
Anyone else?
Just a shout out to Sean. I was part of the climate action committee last month. In the last 60 days. And so it's definitely a very engaging committee. We're accepting committee members, that if you know anybody that's interested in joining that and being a part of our team. Super important topic, and with that, I think we're gonna come up with some meaningful actions for our district to help in those efforts. Thank you, Sean.
I have some pretty important announcements, but the Superintendent's Council on Equity and Anti-Racism has been doing a lot of work going school site to school site to speak to our students on their perceptions, their experiences, what we're doing, what we need to improve on, and so on and so forth. We have some parent forums coming up, and we hope to put that out there for parents. We have a one at the Vista Innovation Center next week, I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but if we could.
It's going on in the community update.
It will, yeah, I asked Dr. Go to put it in the community update, but to get the parents forums perspective, we have one at Vista High, one at RBD. And that's really important, I think, to get the gauge on what the parents feel on how their children are being treated in terms of equity and what we could do better, right? We always have to look at our systems to refine that. So I'm very interested in that. And I just want to give a shout out to our continuation model high school, Alta Vista. We recognize the state of California not here, but I asked the city of Vista to have a proclamation for them. So when that happens, I hope that we can go and celebrate all the great work that the students and the staff and everyone involved with really, giving kids who have so many difficult obstacles and circumstances in their life, the very best education that they can, that we are a model continuation for the state of California. And I just think that speaks to the work also that this board empowered and enabled during the pandemic, right? Because I think it went back to how we served them during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So shout out to Alta Vista staff and students and all of you. Yes, all of you. So they'll be recognized. I'm not sure if it's this month or next month. And I'm very proud of that school site and proud of us because it's a collective job that we've done. And I think that's it for me.
I want to give a shout out, and I'm trying to find the name of the counselor at Monte Vista.
Heidi
Heidi
Salpay.
for being counselor of the year. It was the county, right?
Yes,
San Diego.
council of the year, well, elementary council of the year for the county of San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elementary counselor of the year.
And we will have all of these winners to the board in coming meetings. So
Right.
We'll have an official opportunity to.
Right. Which is why I like to be mindful about the other stuff, because this is the stuff we should be celebrating, right? Our staff and students, first and foremost, and really giving them time to shine and not at 11 o'clock. Yes.
Thanks, I'm all set.
You're all set. Anyone else?
Ready to go.
Okay, so that was comments. Okay, reflection, that it almost seems like that's a whole mixture. 17 A, B, and D.
You don't have to comment on them if they're just there.
Right.
You have an opportunity
Okay.
about it.
So our next special board meeting is March 2nd. It's been moved to 4 PM. Trustees here. So it's a special board meeting on March 2nd. Starting here,
I'll
so
be there at 5 PM, got a work commitment, but I'll be here.
perfect. All right, in that case, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:30.